Call the Board of Custer County Board of County Commissioners to order, please, on Tuesday, October the 3rd, 2017. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Katnig?
Here.
Commissioner Hood? Present. Commissioner Prince?
Here.
Attorney Clint Smith?
Present.
And Clerk to the Board Kelly Camper present.
All right. Do we have any amendments to the agenda as published?
I do not.
No.
Okay, the agenda will stand as published. The audience approval, excuse me, audience introduction, please. I'm sorry.
Kyle York.
Nancy York.
Ivan Brooks.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have some minutes to approve.
You do. They should be, let's see, what is it?
It is
Two on the September,
The Board
Two
of
on the
Health
19th.
on September 19th.
Oh, the two 19ths and the 20th,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
Couldn't remember where we were.
Yeah. I just saw one correction regarding the adjournment time. On September 19th, when we had Jeffrey Wood in place, so I don't know what the correct time was, Kelly.
Yeah, it was, it was like 7:01 or something.
Yeah, we're close to 7.
Okay.
It was.
I really didn't see any other issues, so I'd like to make the motion to approve the minutes with the correction of the adjournment date on the 19th, the evening meeting.
Adjournment time.
And I never even saw that. I'll second the motion.
Adjournment time, you mean, not date.
Time.
Correction. Okay, you seconded it?
Yes, sir.
Do we have a discussion on the minutes? If not, all in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Commissioner items.
I've got one. I should do a happy dance. Just hired the part-time buildings and grounds person yesterday that will start next week. His name is Anthony Wheeler. He's moved here from San Diego. He was a firefighter for 31 years. Also maintained a whole lot of rental properties that he has owned. So he's going to be a good fit for our community.
And he'll be grounds and maintenance.
He'll be grounds and maintenance. So right now,
It's not, is it?
he's going to get his certification for the weighing station. So he will start next week. I'm actually going to take him to the airport on Thursday because that's part of his responsibility. So this position is, it's got some flexibility. It's up to 15 hours a week. So I'm just happy that, considering we've got snow on the mountains, that we finally got somebody in this position to shovel our snow. So
Who lowered the flag?
I don't know, maybe.
The VSO takes care of the flags.
Oh, okay. Well, see, it's, I mean, it was one of my concerns, and I see that it's down, and all of a sudden,
Yeah.
well, who does that? So,
Yeah, they take care of it.
Because of what happened in Las Vegas.
Yes.
I got news.
Yeah, President's declared mourning for Las Vegas until, I believe, the 6th. Several days, anyway. Okay, anything else?
No, that was enough for me.
I have not done anything specific since a couple days ago when we met, so nothing new for me to report.
Okay, I only have one item to cover. It's just an FYI. I had I don't know, I guess you could call it a mini debriefing with Cindy Howard from Office of Emergency Management. Cindy had spent about 10 days or so, 12 days in Florida. She was selected as part of the 20-person response team for Homeland Security from Colorado that was dispatched to Florida. They were dispatched as a hurricane was coming in. They flew into Tallahassee. They drove to Orlando, and were actually in Orlando the night the hurricane passed over them. And then they were deployed down onto the Keys, and they had one other stop intermediate, but they got as far down as clear down on Key West. One of the things that she did for about 4 days was to evaluate county buildings in terms of damage and so forth, so I could begin to get an assessment. Then they left on a Friday and they returned on a Friday. In terms of how much good she did individually down there, I feel comfortable that she contributed. But I think the biggest plus for us, and also Christy Coleman was down there, who's her boss. Christy used to have the job here, was the learning experience. We went through some of this with our fires last year. Certainly wasn't different, but from the standpoint of being able to coordinate a response, to polish some skills and so forth. She's been through sleeping on the floor 4 or 5 nights. I've been through drinking warm Gatorade because that's all there was, and a few of the other issues we don't think about. But in terms of what I think she got out of it from a training standpoint, I think it was extremely valuable to the county. We have a working relationship with our other counties, and when Cindy was deployed, Larry from Warfield County and Mike from Fremont County were both on standby to cover if we had something here. She made those arrangements before she left, and we had, I think, a very, we didn't have anything happen, but everything was in place in case we did. I also had emergency contact information in Florida for her all the time, so I think it was in all respects, I think it was time that was well spent. The only expenses we would incur would be some salary, but most of that comes from Homeland Security anyway. And the other thing that we have, I know we've mentioned it here, but I think a press release will be out today. Through Cindy's efforts down here at Wetmore, they were able to secure about a $350,000 grant from Public Health with no match to go in and clean up some of the mess that's still left from the Wetmore fire. I believe that was in 2012. We have some issues down there with some abandoned vehicles. There's still expected to be some residue from asbestos, and also clear out some of those trees that could impede the flow of water down the side creeks and down Hartscrabble. And that will be finalized, but we do have the money. It's, again, that's a quarter or a third of $1 million that we've been able to achieve that hasn't cost us anything that we can put into reclamation and cleanup as a result of fire. Okay, so all I have. Councilor Smith.
I've done some miscellaneous work for other departments, for the treasurer and for the assessor during the past week, but nothing for this board, so I have nothing else to report.
As a point of order, I will be going down to Naylor's office tomorrow afternoon after the meeting.
Okay.
And pick up the boxes that we have down there. Yes, Don.
I just got a response from Chuck. Do you remember the lady, Rose in Wetmore, that had a concern about her reverse 911?
Mm-hmm.
Had Chuck and Cindy looking into that, and I just want to read his response.
Please.
Okay. Donna, Cindy and I discussed this issue. I've asked Code Red about processing an updated GIS data file, but have not heard back from them yet. Once we do that, Cindy is going to submit a support ticket to find out why Rose was not included in the call-outs, and we'll see where that takes us. Also, it's highly suggested that Rose contact CenturyLink to get the phone number transferred into her name rather than her father's name. So there were a couple issues happening, but just know that Cindy and Chuck are on it.
Wonderful.
You want to respond to that?
No, I'm very pleased that we got Chuck and Cindy involved in it, and we need to take care of that lady. I'm happy it's going.
Okay. Brenda, anything for us?
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
several things.
What happens? You put her on the agenda.
I know, yeah, you don't know what kind of a can of worms you just opened, right? Okay. Oh, hi.
Good morning.
Morning. Good morning.
We're gonna have to do this anyway.
Yeah. Okay, let's see here. I got a letter from Beth Archuleta regarding the RETAC board agenda item that's coming up later. And I just got it via email, so. Do you want one, Kelly?
Thanks.
So that's for later. Virginia wanted to know if she could squeeze in today to give her report because she won't be here tomorrow. So, and I gave you the treasurer's report in your pile for you to look at, so.
That should probably, just as a point of order, should probably come in when we amend the agenda.
Right, yeah. And I was gonna say something and then it just happened so fast, I was like,
Not
oh.
a problem. Not a problem.
Okay. So I don't know if we do we need to do an amend agenda again now, or just because it's a staff report?
Staff reports, we'll just do it.
Okay. I also got a lease agreement from Chuck for the copier that's in the treasurer's office, which is actually the clerk's copier. The one upstairs and then the one in JD's office. And it's a 5-year lease, and I have the information in front of you.
We have the one upstairs in JD's office.
Yeah.
Where's the other one?
There's one upstairs in the mail office in the regular area, and then there's one
And
in
who
actually
uses
in
that
JD's office, or
No,
the one
the other
upstairs. Probably
Extension
everybody
office.
upstairs,
Yeah.
extension and assessor and everybody. Yeah.
I didn't know. JD's got one in his office?
Yeah, he's got it's a printer. It's more of a printer than a copier,
Oh.
but it's from
Yeah.
Xerox and we lease
Yeah,
it.
because
So.
this one is for everybody downstairs and
Yeah,
that one's for
upstairs,
everybody
yeah.
upstairs.
Yeah, he has his own printer then. So that is leased through Xerox. And it looks like I went and got the voucher that we pay now. And it looks like total for the 3 copiers, it's going to be about $20 a month more than it is now.
What condition are those copiers in? Do you know how old they are?
I don't know what it looks like the last, what do you think, 5 years?
Yeah, probably within 5 years.
Because I think the last lease agreement was probably also a 5-year lease, so.
Now, we lease a copier. That is a copier or the specific copier?
Well, I don't know, and I haven't looked at the terms.
Are you suggesting, I guess we're headed in the right direction, both of us. If something happens with one of those copiers under the lease, do they
They fix it.
fix it?
Or replace it?
Yeah, because when we had this one replaced, it was to the point where they were fixing it so often that it was better to replace it, and then we just went with a new lease.
Okay.
And
That's what I'm concerned
kinda what
about. If we
happened
got,
upstairs,
if we got a copier 5 years old, if we're using it a lot, that's starting to get to
It's a
the edge of the.
lot of use.
Yeah.
That language.
If I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Jay. Go ahead.
Sorry, it's the same thing. It says in the lease agreement, total satisfaction guarantee. Is that where you're going?
Well, maintenance services, they agree to keep the equipment in good working order. It was the language I was looking, I see what you're looking at up number, I was looking at number 8. But it's, they do agree to maintain it.
Reason I'm chuckling, we have 2 attorneys who look at the same document and find 2 different things.
I'm not an attorney today.
Picking on you, bud.
Today I'm just a commissioner.
I read backwards.
So, is this, I have to look, the one that's downstairs between not downstairs, around the corner, zoning?
No.
No.
No,
have their own.
it's the one that's in the treasurer's office. and then the big one that's upstairs, and then the one that's in JD's
So
office.
that's it.
Yep.
The other one's on its own.
Yeah. It's got a different lease and probably different
So-
time frame. So.
Just point of order, just for my own knowledge, is this something that under our policy we need to go out on a bid on, or is this something we could just renew?
It's not.
Not consequential
Yeah.
enough? Okay,
Um,
so I'm fine with it.
I guess the only thing I want to understand is if these three printers, copiers, are allocated to each one of the departments.
Yes, this one is charged to the clerk. The one it's not?
No, the Xerox thing that's charged to me is Donna's
Oh,
lease.
you know what, it is, and
It's all
that's why I
lumped
couldn't find it. It's
together.
capital improvement. It's under
So all the
capital.
leases are under capital improvement?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because I was trying to find that voucher in the general fund, and I'm like, oh, that's right, it's under capital improvement, so.
Do you need a motion to approve this?
I haven't asked for it. I'm doing some quick math here to see what this is going to do budget-wise. 14. Okay, we're going to be up $3,500.
Over 5 years? Or over?
Well, per year.
Yeah. Oh, total?
Yeah, we're $285 a month. And I took that times 12.
Well, that's two of them now, right? There's a third
That
one.
should be three.
There's three, there's two and one. 1, 2.
Yeah, it's the 142.89,
No,
142.60,
Well, I only have,
and
Yeah,
the
it's this one.
25.78.
I don't have that other page.
Yeah, it's underneath. You have it. It's this one right here.
Just one more. Yeah, but we already had all of it, but
Yes.
$20 a month in our budget already. So it's $20 times 12 is $240 a year more than what it currently is. So,
It's $20 a month more.
more than what it currently is.
Okay,
for all
so
three
that
of
would
them.
Would make it
20 times 12 plus
240.
40 a year more.
Okay. I'll entertain your motion now, sir.
Okay. I make a motion that we approve the Xerox lease agreement. I don't see a number on it.
Well, there's two different ones.
Okay.
There are.
Yeah, the two different Xerox lease agreements for 3 copiers to be used by the county offices.
I'll second the motion as stated.
I'd like to amend that if I may, to clarify that it's a Xerox contracts.
I believe I said
It
that
is.
when I made the motion.
Oh, did you say Xerox? Okay, I was trying to find something on here to identify it.
I was
All right.
looking for number 2.
Been moved and seconded. Do we have any other discussion on the agreement? Counselor, you're comfortable with this?
Yes.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
And then I'll have you sign these two. Right. Right here.
Oh. What's that authorized signature?
Yeah. And so one other point I have, and we can bring this up with Road and Bridge, but this guy Chuck Levy, I don't know who's gotten a call from him. He said he'd called 2 of you.
Not me.
But he's disgusted with County Road 271. So, just
Well, my response there is, I'm sorry, it's discussed. I didn't date that. Will you date it
yep.
with it? But given the tremendous traffic we have on our county roads, that our crew is doing, I feel, doing a good job of trying to keep up with stuff, and we'll get to it, we'll pass it on to our road supervisor, but we'll get to it when we can.
Would you be willing to call him?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Can I ask before you run
Sure.
off? First of all, I thank you for what I'm about to ask you. Tom, the architect down at Wetmore, was concerned about the line getting buried as opposed to just hanging loose. I asked Brenda if she would mind getting a hold of
San Isabel.
San Isabel, thank you. I was going to call Black Hills, I don't know why.
Yeah.
San Isabel, and you did, and could you give us an update on that, please?
Sure. I talked to the gal at San Isabel, and currently our bill for the community center in Wetmore, it says care of Debbie Livengood. So it's like, oh. So when I called to
Forward it to Debbie from now on.
yeah, I know. So when I called, they're like, well, you're not the point of contact, so you can't make that request. Yeah, but it is an open work ticket with them, so they know they have to do it. But we need a letter on county letterhead that says that the point of contact has changed to someone else, whoever that is, Donna probably.
Should be done.
I was just gonna say, yeah, it
should be done.
And then they
I don't know
want
why
a
it was-
copy of her badge, a photocopy of her badge.
Okay.
And we send it in, and then Donna has to make the request to get the work done. But Donna felt that Clint should write the letter because Debbie Livengood is an elected official.
And we talked about it. I'll have that ready for you tomorrow. Just get me the copy.
Perfect.
And I don't need a badge for anything since they don't need my badge,
Right.
just hers.
Okay.
Sure about that.
And I think that Donna can take care of that without any kind of a motion.
Yeah. So,
Okay, what else?
that's it.
Thanks for handling
Yep,
that.
thank you. Oh, do I have to shake hands?
Yes. Maybe we don't stand the next time. I guess everybody
Thank
does.
you.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Road and bridge out in the hall? I bet they're not.
Yeah, and I told them that we were starting like on time, and we're a little ahead of time. Maybe.
Could we get the treasurer in, please?
Sure. Okay.
Is it okay with you guys?
Yeah.
Do you have a treasury report there? Is that what you got?
Yeah.
You got one?
Yeah, you have one.
That's it, right, right.
What's that?
Oh, I thought this was road and bridge, I'm sorry.
Did you hear me yell for her? She was going out the door. I'm like, help.
Comment I'd like to make as a general comment, folks. Maybe you've seen it, well, I'm sure you've seen it, but if we look at where we are in terms of our income, look at where we are in terms of our assessed valuation, I think our projections, as you saw in the budget projections, are going to be down. Good morning.
Donna?
Yes, ma'am, you got the floor.
Just give you the report. See if you have any questions. We are getting lower on county general, if you notice that. Next month I'll probably have to get a transfer. I'm already transferring out of the checkbook out of call trust into the checkbook because we're been lowering the.
This is
checking account.
typical.
Oh yeah. Well, I look back. Last year we didn't have to in October or September.
I know we
Year
did in
before we
November.
did, but yeah, year before.
We haven't had to in November, haven't we?
There's sometimes in the old days when we had really good money coming in, didn't have to until November, December.
Really good money.
Yeah,
What's
really
that?
good money. That's when all of the departments was bringing in a little more than what we
Okay.
are now. Before the fall in 2008. So it's starting to build up though. We're getting more for our interest than what we used to. I mean, we used to get like $300-400. Now we're getting 5,000. So
I'm just curious, are you seeing any increase in your business with the additional hour till 5?
We've been keeping track of it.
Nothing. Okay. Well, they have to evaluate that.
Yeah, we've been keeping track of it, and there was one day we collected $64 on taxes
Wow.
out of since August.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're keeping track of it so we can discuss it.
Okay.
Because that wasn't cut and stick.
And in the wintertime it's going to be a little worse because you have more electric and heat that you wouldn't have during the summertime. It's going to cost you a little bit more for that hour. I know it doesn't seem like home much, but I bet you it'll add up.
So we shut the heat off at 4 o'clock.
I just turned the heat on just now.
Well, you say in the wintertime it'll be worse because they'll have more heat. I think we'll still have the same heat, close to the same heat bills.
Well, that could be true because we try to keep it. And when Dave was here, he would turn it off.
Dave would deprive people of heat.
But we would ask him just to leave it because it's cheaper to keep it at a constant heat than to try to heat up a cold.
We've been through that 2 or 3 times.
So yeah, you're probably right on that.
Can I ask a question if I may? I ask this every month. Is there anything that I'm not seeing that, I mean, this looks fairly typical. Is there anything jumping out that should jump out at me? Anything anomaly, anything different that out of the ordinary, anything you need to bring to our attention?
No, it's about the same status quo. Outside of County General's only at 97,000.
Yeah,
so
so-
next month we're not bringing in the tax money like we were. So we'll probably have to do a transfer out of PILT.
Okay.
And we're probably, one place you'll see an increase this year, which is anomaly, will be from the capital improvement side, Jay, because of the expenses in Whitmore, which is more than we would normally have.
Yeah, you guys budgeted for a certain amount and you went over that amount?
But what I'm saying, though, if we look at where we were in past years.
Oh, I see, yeah.
And where we are this year, that's one
a
item
difference.
that's going to be significantly increased.
Okay.
Go ahead, you anything else?
I'm sorry, I had one question. The Upper Arkansas Water Conservatory District, is it a contract? Is it statutory? Why and how do we pay that? I'm just curious.
It's the monies that we collect. It's just that, like the entity for Round Mountain or the clinic or anything. It's an entity we collect for and we send the money to them. I always used to think, I was told when I first started working here that it was the vote of the people, but actually it wasn't. It was the commissioners at that time period that put that on the ballot. I mean, put that through. And it's what it is to fight for the Colorado's water rights.
Yeah, I know what it is. Is there a mill levy that collects that? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
where I
that's
was
how you
going
get
with
there.
it.
Yeah, that's how
Thank
you
you.
get there.
I appreciate it.
And I think for those of you, I'm sure everybody here is familiar with it, but the Upper Conservancy District does a lot of watching water rights. One of the things that they pushed is augmentation. One of the issues we've had in Custer County, we felt that they wanted to take our water and we weren't going to gain anything from it, which I think is important. And part of us are on the board to one of those meetings to see. And I believe you've been going to some of those meetings.
I have.
And the other thing they watch is some legislation that may impact waters. They also get involved in lawsuits. And another item which is somewhat new to them, and I guess I'm kind of sitting on the fence on it, they have acquired some property that they're looking at recharge back into the groundwater to see, just one of the thoughts is that we want to store water in these old underground aquifers that are isolated, which would be very old prehistoric rivers that are kind of like a closed cup or a closed basin, if you will. Put the water in, pump it in underground, and then when they need it, they pull it out. And the purpose behind that is that it will reduce the evaporative loss that we would have if we had above ground storage. But anyway, they purchased this ranch and or leased it or whatever, and they're trying to do some research work up there with Colorado State, which I think is critical because I don't feel that the Upper Ark has the research expertise running at the university, it has to be tied to it. And we've been asked last year, and I don't think we've done anything with it. They asked that we make about I think it was a $4,000 or $5,000 contribution. Custer County, Round Mountain has agreed to pay half of it. And I said we would take it under advisement. That was last fall. And has that come up in any of your meetings?
No.
So we may, if they don't get started this year, maybe next year. But again, what that is for is to, they want to do some more water sampling, profiling in eastern Fremont County and in Custer County.
We used to have some.
We do have some ideas of what some of these profiles look like, but it's kind of been a hit and miss. And they want to come in and actually see what our aquifer is, see what the profiles are, and
We
so
had,
forth.
we had a well
So-
on our place that they used to do that.
So that's the reason behind it, and the reason I was in favor of doing it was that this is one project they're doing that I think will benefit us as a county as we go down the road, because we know very little about underground flows. Just as a point of interest, I guess we've had radioactivity in the air since 1945, so it'll be about 60 years. And in the sand dunes, they've not found any water coming out of the sand dunes that carries any of the radioactivity. So the water that's gone in on this end, 50 years later, 60 years, 70 years later, it still hasn't come out on the other end of the sand dunes. So it gives you just a snapshot, though, of how slow in some cases our underground water really moves. And that's also important from the standpoint of any contaminations that might occur. It gives us a profile to look at the cone of contamination and see what that might be doing. Didn't mean to get off on all that, but that's
No, it's fine. I think it's very educational. I think what would be something I would appreciate sometime in the future is to have Bob Sindehoff come in and kind of give us an update, kind of like what you're talking about, of the things they're working on, and then we're paying for it. I'd like to hear what they're doing, aside from my meetings I go to.
I have a question,
Okay.
Virginia. The Community Development Fund, 1750-54. How do we use that?
That's a good question. That was before my time. And the only thing, I have one piece of paper that shows you it was about, and it looked like Joe Blow would come in and say, I need a loan to fix up my furnace. And you would lend it to him, and then he would pay it back. I have, someone was supposed to, one of the board was supposed to check with, who was it?
well, we've talked to our auditors about this,
Uh-huh.
and it seems like it's kind of
They said you had to use it for what it was.
an isolated fund that our thought was, let's just roll it into the general fund and clean it up.
I
But we
tried.
couldn't.
Did
So-
you try to?
I asked the auditors if we could do that, and they said no. That is specific money that was given for a specific reason, and that's what you have to use it for. So I had suggested that maybe they use it for the Wetmore. That's a community development, but I don't know if it's the same parameters as what it was originally set out for.
So we have to find out
This-
what that is in
And this has
case.
been here probably 20 years.
Okay.
More than
I mean,
that, I've been working here 23, and it was in
Yeah.
place before I was.
So how could we find out what the specifications are on that?
I can give you all what I have in my
Okay.
office, and then you guys can try
If
from
we
there.
find a date, maybe we can go back to some commissioner meetings, minutes, and see if there's anything that identifies it. I don't know
That's
how
what I
else
was
we could.
thinking, that's the only, because surely they had to have brought it up somewhere
Right.
and okayed it during, so it might be in some minutes somewhere.
If we can start with your dates and
Yeah, I guess all I'm saying is we're coming up on budget time next week, and if we can award this to somebody that
I've been
needs
trying
it.
for 2 years to get rid of it, but
we
the
met with-
auditor said no.
And we also say we specifically asked Sam at our last, a year ago when we had our reviews about getting rid of this. And it's one of those things that's so specific in use that we can't just take it and put it someplace else.
No, but it would be nice to know for
Well,
our
to use it for it.
constituents.
Well, I'm not
What they
arguing
can
at all
use
with
it
that,
for.
Don. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that we've tried it in the past and there's been some issues with it, that's why it's still on there.
Yeah, but
It
I
doesn't
mean,
grow and it doesn't shrink.
no, but I mean, it would be nice to use it, and then you don't have to deal with it
Yeah,
anymore.
just close it
Yes.
out.
So,
Yeah, we'll find out because our idea was to close it out and move it and we couldn't do it. It had a very specific.
Purpose.
Any other questions? For,
I'm good, and I appreciate the job you're doing.
just in a general visit. The numbers I'm seeing on our preliminary budget drafts for income. And I guess I got some information from JD on the appraisals and the valuations in the county. For a long time, every 10 years, our valuations doubled until about 7, 8 years ago. And then it was going up just like this. And then all of a sudden it started to level off with very little increase. And I think this year we're probably looking at 1% or so
Decrease.
of actual increase, but in reality it's a decrease because we have to lower the mill levy as per Colorado law. So it looks to me like we're going to have less dollars next year than we've had this year. Have you got any read on anything like that?
I don't get anything until Judy gives me the information.
Well, I know, so we'll get into our budget in more detail, but just looking at it, this has been a trend that I've identified 3 years ago, that we've really leveled this thing off. I would anticipate with the building we're having this year that we might see an increase next year. But it's sure been basically flat for about 3 or 4 years now.
Yeah, I won't know anything till JD gives me the information, what it's gonna be. He's more the pulse person that would know that.
Did I hand that back to you?
You did.
All right, anything else for us?
thank you.
Oh. Are those trees red down there by your place yet?
Yeah, they're lost their leaves, most of them. and
But
it's-
I never did see them red, did
Yeah,
you?
they didn't turn as pretty red as they usually do.
Road and bridge out there now.
Is that there and all?
They were. I saw Rusty's landfill. I was forgetting. Maybe two.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him find a way to clean that out.
I'll take your hand here, then I can sit down. Sounds good.
Hey,
Good morning.
Good morning.
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 How are you?
Good. How are you today?
I'm good.
I heard you patching roads yesterday.
Yeah, we were out here on 255 and now we're out here on Schoolfield.
Do we have that fixed on Macy?
Got fixed first thing yesterday morning. So it's taken care of.
So the lady that was asking about it, told her when we got some hot mix, we fixed it and
Yeah, it's fixed.
got her done.
We
So
did, yeah, we got it done. I did a speed test about 45, so it was nice and smooth. No more bike wrecks on it.
okay, go ahead.
Here in the past few weeks, I've been doing some traffic counts on some of our roads. And I'm still going to do a bunch more before the snow flies, provided the weather lets me. But anyway, this will give you kind of an idea what kind of volume of traffic we've got on our roads. I've got 3 different ones here. I've got Hermit, Rosita, and Oak Creek Grade. And
So we have 7,000 cars on Hermit in a week.
yeah. Yeah, and on the second page, it shows you like Tuesday, August 15th, we had almost 800, 789. Thursday, I had a malfunction in the equipment, so that one didn't count. It was not accurate, but like on Wednesday, the 16th, we had 704, and then on Friday, we had 1121. It goes up on a weekend, but
You told me you had a weekend count
uh-huh.
and I don't see those high numbers on here.
Yeah, on Saturday, August 19th was 16.
1626.
Yeah,
And then, okay, so we only had I thought it was 16 and 1700. It's 16 and 1100.
It was. I did a 2-day count like a couple of weeks prior to this. This is when we had an event out here at Painted View, and the numbers were higher those 2 days.
So that's not the number we see here. That's
No.
a separate count. And those were 16 and 1700 cars on a Saturday and a Sunday.
Yeah.
Well,
But I mean, it's just to kind of give you an idea of how much volume we're getting on these things. Usually, it's an average about 6 to 800 vehicles a day. I mean, in fact, when I first got on board, I looked through the book and I seen some old traffic count data, and I thought maybe the machine was malfunctioning because I couldn't imagine that many vehicles on our county roads in a day's time. So I took this thing out and I did a manual count. I set it up on Copper Gulch for an hour and I counted the vehicles manually as they come across it. And then I took the machine back to the office, hooked it up to the computer, and it was 100% accurate. There was like 67 vehicles in 1 hour, so it was like more than one vehicle a minute. I was just astounded. I just couldn't imagine, 1,500 or 1,000 vehicles in an hour or in a day on our county roads, but that's what we're getting. It's a bunch. Now I'm finding out why we blade them and then get a little bit of rain and then a week later.
Again.
Yes. I mean, it's a vicious cycle, basically, is what it is.
I see on Oak Creek you've got much longer period.
Yeah, I got busy on Thursday and wasn't able to get out there and get it picked up. Usually I like to leave it for a week, but it was the following Monday before I got it picked up. I just didn't get a chance to get out there and get it picked up, so that's why.
So we're running pretty close to 600 a day. Well, that's very consistent on there.
Yeah.
And that was right here in town.
Yes. Right off the highway, right off the 96.
So if we go for 600 a day for 7 days, it would be 4,200 instead of 57 roughly. I'm just trying to get to where I compare the three roads together.
I'm finding the average is about, well, it depends on the road now. Hermit gets more traffic than I think any of the others, possibly.
I can attest to that.
I'll bet. And you don't really know until you're out there working on that road, and it's just.
And the dust flies, yeah.
I think the one that I was surprised at Hermit, excuse me, folks, when you gave me the first numbers. But I think my big surprise right now is the number of vehicles on Rosita Road. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Where on Rosita Road did you do this?
Right off the 69, just back to the east a little bit. What I'd like to do is eventually do some of the, like 319 off of Rosita Road, some of the gravel roads and, where there's,
318.
where they're branching off and see where we're getting on them.
We
also.
have,
Well, I know 319 gets a lot because it gets everything from Antelope Valley and Lycagle and places like that. So,
okay, so this total here is less than we have up here then.
where's that?
Right.
Which one are you on?
Well, I see, if I count the numbers of days you have
Rosita,
here,
he's on Rosita.
I got 13 days. The date you have here is only 8 days.
Where are you coming up with 13 days at? On Rosita. See right here,
Class.
where the 13th through the 21st is 8 days.
Now, what are these numbers right here?
Oh, I don't have a clue. There's some information I'm still trying to figure out. on our
Oh,
system.
I'm sorry. Okay,
Yeah, those
okay.
aren't actual days that. Yeah, I'm not sure what that is.
That's fine. That was what I
Yeah.
was taking those as a date, and they didn't match.
No, it's actually the 13th through the 21st, and then the second page shows the 8 days. Now, like the first day, the 13th was incomplete because it wasn't a full 24-hour period. It got put out there like, noon or something like that. Same way with the 21st, it's not a full day also, even though it still shows 602 vehicles. But the ones that are highlighted are the actual full 24-hour periods, so that's why I highlighted them. And
So on the Hermit one, did you ever try doing it on the blacktop and then on the road in front of the ranch?
No, that's something I'd like to eventually do, but I haven't done it yet. I'd like to do it.
I'd like to see what that is eventually.
Sure.
Because you're gonna get a lot of the hunters going up that road during
Yeah.
the hunting season.
But you'll have a lot less, I think, than the total we show. There'll be a lot less than the total we show here. Because there's a tremendous amount goes by my house going to Colony.
Yeah, I'd like to eventually do Macy, and I'd like to do Kettle, and see
I
what
guess I would like to see what Colfax is like.
Colfax also. That's
Yeah,
just-
that's getting a lot.
In fact, I might do Colfax off of school, right off of school field next, and see what we get there.
For those of you in the audience, if I may, we had 3 traffic counts on Rosita Road. In a week's time, we had 6,093 vehicles this is going each way. On the Oak Creek grade, in a week's period, we had roughly 4,500 vehicles. If my math is right, it might not be, but I think that's pretty close because I've got 1, 2. Oh no, it's not. That's 8. So we got a 5791 on Oak Creek grade, and on Herman out here we have 6,970 on 1 week, and that's vehicles going each way. And I guess what do? Divide the count by 2?
And no, actually, that's just one way.
No. But you got 2 axles in a car.
Well, it counts. If it doesn't matter if it's a bicycle or a 4-wheeler or an 18-wheeler. These are actual vehicles. That this thing is computerized.
It's computerized where it'll take a vehicle count based on.
Yeah, just each individual vehicle. See that? I don't know how it does it.
That's right.
But anyway, yeah, it's each individual vehicle, whether it's going east to west or west to east.
Any other comments? Chuck Levy on 271. You talked to him?
I haven't, but we're out there working on that road this morning.
Give him a call and tell him. He was
Okay.
fussed about it, I guess.
We had a little. Well, what he did was he called in about the first cattle guard right off the highway, so I went out and looked at it, and we got it fixed, and now I noticed the road needed to be worked on, so we're out there working on it also. So, I can call him too and just let him.
I don't think it's a big deal. We're out there, we're working, we're taking care of it, but he was concerned.
Okay.
What else on your report?
We've still got a lot of culvert work to do. We're just trying to find time, and I've got to get that done before it gets much colder because we have to flush these things with a water truck, and we don't want to be freezing because we inevitably get water on us. So I need to get that done pretty soon. So some of these roads are going to get a little bit neglected to a certain degree while we get that culvert work done. And we still got forest roads we still need to get bladed, so we've just got a lot to do, and I know winter's right around the corner, so we're just...
Question I have, it's just information I guess, start with. We had a big marijuana bust over on the San Isabel area. And I understand our Wetmore Road and Bridge, well I know our Wetmore Road and Bridge went up and dug a hole in the gravel pit to bury it. Is that something, I mean, as a board, is this something we routinely do, or how do we want to do that? Because that's, I appreciate the cooperation between them. Were you aware of that when we did it?
I was aware of some of the details. It was my understanding that the reason that we got requested to do it is because the loader happened to be sitting at the location where they were going to dig it.
Because
So
what?
we didn't. The loader was already mobilized and sitting where the place was. They were going to dig the hole and bury this stuff. So no, it's not something that
Were we taking gravel out of that pit? I thought that pit was closed.
I don't even know where this pit is, honestly.
I'll try to find, where
It wouldn't be one of our pits.
you know where the 12-mile cutoff is? By right, what's that highway, 76, I think? Over towards San Isabel. After you go past, get this right, you have to go past Bishop's Castle, and you're going towards San Isabel, maybe 3 or 4 miles is a road that goes to the left. It's a dirt road, but it's a state highway, and that goes down into Beulah. And right up on top, just a mile off the asphalt, there's an old gravel pit. But I wasn't aware that we were able to use that and the Forest Service to get gravel out of it.
We're not using it for the road and bridge departments, no, the roads that is. It's we were doing work on Ophir Creek, and I think they were getting that material out of there for that. It was the Forest Service. They've got the access to the pit, and that's why our loader was there. We were getting material out of that pit.
That's what you were going over to Oak Creek where it washed out.
Right. Well, not some of it was. It was more potholes than anything that they were doing. It's just patching those potholes with that material.
Well, I don't have no problem with it, but I was surprised when they said, well, come out on the TV that Road and Bridge was on the newspaper. One of the Road and Bridge was involved in it.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
What we're talking about, folks, we probably saw in the newspapers, but we had almost 20,000 plants, 19,000 and some plants in three grows over by St. Isabel. One day they raided 2 of them, and the next day they raided the 3rd. And the one grow, in order to dispose of the marijuana, we dug a hole in a gravel pit up there and buried it. And apparently, after just a few hours, it's no luck. If you were to go there and dig a hole, you won't have anything that you can smoke. It'll be decomposed to the standpoint. So that's what we were just talking about. And that bust, incidentally, was worth about, well, anywhere from $20 to $40 million retail. Well, any folks have anything for them? In your districts you want to?
Good job.
Thanks.
Now the Forest Service is going to go in with a cat and try to poke a hole through South Colony. And part of that is then the telephone company hasn't got any excuse why they haven't got in there and got those lines reburied or whatever we need to do. I don't know if we'll have to haul some stuff in for them or if they'll have to go up overhead, whatever we need to do. I think we just need to do it. If we have to do it, it's not volunteer, but if we have to do something, use your own judgment on that. But they are going to poke a hole through there, so at least you can get through it with it's not going to open a road, but it's going to make it where you can drive down it, I guess.
Okay.
So,
Speed bumps on Hermit. That's what I want.
So to slow traffic down.
we can't.
I know.
Illegal.
I'm going to say it.
It's
Always.
it's surprising how many people would like to have speed bumps, and then other people want the speed bumps taken out so they can go faster. It's kind of a 50-50.
We might make some signs that the reason these potholes have not been filled is to control speed.
I've had people complain because we have fixed potholes and it allowed people to go faster. So.
Okay.
Just a question that you made prompted my thought. There was a discussion, and maybe it's not even road and bridge, I'm not sure, maybe the fire department, but putting some removable speed bumps for real in front of the fire department. Have you been involved in that, or has that progressed anywhere? Do you
It's
remember
the
that
city.
discussion?
That would be the town.
Okay,
not
never
ours.
mind.
Yeah.
I got confused.
Check with the town attorney.
Okay, never mind. Sorry.
John, you had a question. I apologize.
Yes, on the, thank you, on the road count data, do we have any previous data to compare that to?
I haven't done that yet, but we've got some previous data.
Okay, I'd love to see that.
The one thing that's making it very challenging, if you look at the budgets for the last 10 years, we had that mill levy increase in road and bridge. But we look at how much these traffic counts are going up. Lake Dewey's reflects similar numbers that I've seen. It's hard to realize that, folks. But even in the evenings, I'll sit there in my living room and reading, and I'll see 15, 20 cars go by between 9 and 11 or 12 that late at night. So it's a tremendous amount, John. But we've got that data, and it's something I think that we look forward. We really have to, as budget items, we're going to have to address road and bridge. We've got old equipment. We've got increased use of it. We've got, the miles haven't changed, but the vehicle counts have. And, if in my estimation, maybe I'm not right, but I feel if we double the vehicle counts, that's just like doubling the miles, because we're getting that much more use over that piece of a road. And I think that's a fair statement. Another thing that's interesting that for you two maybe you haven't thought about it, I just lost my train of thought.
Toll booths.
What? The
Toll booths.
There you go.
this wasn't critical. I want to commend you for getting the bar pits mowed. And they spent all day yesterday out here on Schoolfield, or most of the day. I guess did you get up to Macy? How far did you get on Schoolfield?
We liked getting to Macy, like 2 or 3 loads of material, and now we're going to go from Macy further west until we run out of material. Hopefully we'll be able to haul tomorrow. And
What we're trying to do is all our roads basically were just sprayed with asphalt. In other words, we didn't come in and lay down a hot mix. So we don't have a lot of a deep base on these roads, and the only way we can maintain them is by continually patching them. Then next year we hope to come in and do a additional sealing on those roads.
yeah, I'd like to do some chip seal next year if it works out. But
What's your schedule later today?
it's hard to say.
I'd like to, is there any chance we can visit this afternoon?
Sure, I'll make time.
You pick a time or let me know, whatever. Would you like to do it at 4 or
Yeah, that'd work fine for me.
Be the best? Okay, I'll get you at the shop at 4.
Okay.
Can I ask Gary a question just for my own curiosity? On 255, just beyond 254 up to that Pike historical marker, when you worked on it maybe 6 weeks ago, why do you sometimes scrape right up to the fence line on both sides? What does that do?
What they're doing is they're trying to make it. A lot of times the ditch gets filled up. You know, the water will wash that material down the hill, and it'll get actually some places it'll get higher than the road, and then the water won't get off the road. And also they're trying to make room for snow with the winter coming
I
on.
was just curious why you did that once in a while.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Anything for you folks?
Good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Keep up the good work, Glenn.
Thanks.
I appreciate it.
See you, Clint.
Okay.
Sitting back there.
Rusty, come on down.
Regular game
Made you
show.
Oh, God, made you chuckle anyway.
We finally got a letter from Colorado's Department of Health and Environment on the well that they actually 3 wells that they want to drill out there.
And are they going to pay for them?
Yeah. And evidently they're going to sample them for 2 quarters.
Well,
But
are they
I
in
would
good
rather,
spots?
I'd rather see just 2, and so I will talk to them about that.
Which tour do you want to see?
Yeah, which ones are?
It's working. Yeah, that's the one we're talking about.
Right,
So it's 1, 2, 3.
right, yeah.
And which two would you prefer?
These 2.
Okay.
This one for sure.
Why wouldn't you want a third? I guess I'm curious why you wouldn't want a third.
Because it doesn't make any sense. This is,
Bye, ladies.
Take care, Biz.
this ground actually slopes 2% east to west. And so this well, I don't think is needed.
All that well would be, I think, Donna, is a baseline if anything's coming into the landfill from the east.
So,
Because-
I'm sorry, that's what you were
Go
doing.
ahead.
With any of these wells, will that aid in the expansion of our landfill if we choose to do that down the road?
Yeah, they will. They'll be down gradient wells from everything that we do, so that it'll help
Okay, good.
in the future too.
I'm real concerned about this.
Will you be doing the sampling for 2 years, or will they be doing it?
They're gonna sample for 2 quarters,
Or 2?
and then we'll have to take over after that.
But will that be only an annual sampling after that, or you have to do it quarterly?
That I don't know. I think that probably depends on what they find in their 2 quarters that they're going to sample.
Well, I would like us to think about, I agree you may not need that one, but if they're going to put it in, sometime they may require us to have it, and maybe they won't pay for it.
I just get concerned of the cost of the sampling those wells. If they're 300, 400 feet deep, we're going to have somebody come up and pump them. And then the expense of the lab and the expense of the reporting and everything, it gets pretty
See,
high
they have
off.
here a 390-foot depth. So you're entirely right. I mean, 400 feet.
Yeah, and it could even be deeper than that.
So what's it cost us now for what we have?
The cost for,
The sampling, you have
Sampling.
electronic.
yeah, I'll have to, those wells being that deep, you have to have someone come up and pump the water up and out to retrieve the samples, and that's expensive. And then you still have the cost of sending the samples to the lab, which is in ACZ Laboratories in Steamboat, is where I've sent them before. And then you get all that information back, and then you have to do a report to send to Colorado Department of Health.
So just so I could just kind of put my mind around it, are we talking about a couple $100, a couple $1,000?
It'd be probably closer to 15 to 2,000.
Oh, it's very significant.
And you're saying that's done quarterly?
We've got a lysimeter out there doing some sampling.
Right, and the
Sometimes it
lysimeter.
works and sometimes it doesn't work.
Right, and we don't use it anymore. That's why we have to try to get all the bigger rock out of the material that we cover the pits with, because they don't want that bigger rock in there because the lysimeter isn't working. So they figure that the bigger rock in there, the water's going to come down and find a way to get down into the trash. So we take all the bigger rocks out. That lysimeter, I mean, it was probably a good idea for a while, but now they decided they're not going to let anybody use lysimeters in their landfills because they have a lot of problems with them.
Well, whatever our sampling costs are, it will be a 50% increase if we go with 3 over 2 wells. So that you're saying $2,500 for all 3 wells or for 2 wells? And $1,500 for sampling costs
Per well.
per year.
Per quarter.
Per quarter.
So you're looking at $1,500, $4,500. We're looking at $18,000 in sampling costs.
Yeah, and that's just a rough guesstimate at this point.
Putting that in your budget.
Yeah, I'll have money to cover hopefully what we need for CDPHE and professional services, engineering and CDPHE and everything.
So the question we got, I guess, is twofold. One, do we want to go with 2 or 3 wells? And the other, looking at the rewards versus the cost. Oh. Jay?
Is it even our decision whether we have 2 or 3 wells, or is it their decision?
Do we what?
Who makes the decision on whether we have 2 wells or 3 wells? Is that ours or theirs?
Well, they're thinking that we need 3 at this point. And when I talked to them before, I thought they said at least 2. Why they think we need 3 now, I don't know. Because that was news to me.
But we're going with
Well, I can definitely talk to our permitting person and get a little more information and see why they really think we need 3 wells. I was hoping it was just going to be 1, but
That's what they talked to us about, was 1.
what's our
what I
cost,
remember.
drilling cost per foot?
for a well, I think when we were going to do it was around 43,000.
And how deep was that?
340 feet.
from one well. So see, we're looking at, and this is going to 400 feet. So it's a savings to us if they'll do it now,
Right.
but it's an expense for us to maintain it down the road. Any comments, either one?
I'm going to defer to your expertise. I'm not thrilled with the expense of the tech. You know, it's kind of like we can get a grant to build a building, but then who's going to maintain it? It sounds like the same deal.
Yeah.
You know, so if it's not necessary and it's going to cost us money, you're on the right track. I'm with
Kind of
you.
where I'm at too, right?
I'm going to ask that whoever you speak to, I'd like to see it in writing,
Yeah.
so it's not a he said, she said situation.
Yeah, I think this is basically preliminary, so I'll do a little more research with them, and I'll even talk to our engineers and see what they think
And then if
too.
when you go down that deep, if you strike oil, who gets it? Goes it, you know,
Right.
that was just a joke.
I'm going to take the other tact, having been involved in some of this in Arizona. We had a very large underground tank that was leaking, and they drilled what they thought were sufficient wells to monitor the plume, and had to come back twice to drill additional wells because what they had initially wasn't sufficient to identify the problem. And the only advantage I see for this well is, and I can't really see where it would come from, if we had anything coming in to the landfill, this gives us a baseline. But if there's no change in it over time, I would think that we wouldn't have to be a quarterly sampling on that well, because it's above the contamination that could occur. The bottom two are definitely there to monitor any contamination.
Yeah, if it turns out there are two samples that they take, those 2 quarters, then if we just have to do it once, just annually,
That's what I'm thinking, at least propose it to them. If we go with this other one, we do it just anyway. Okay.
because annually it would make sense if they don't find anything in 2 quarters.
Right.
I agree with that.
All right, let's table this until the next,
Okay.
chat, not tomorrow, but in the middle of the month.
Right.
Is that okay with you folks?
Fine.
See what else being fine? All right.
And I had to wait till Saturday, till the end of the month, to get these figures for the 3 quarters.
Oh,
Thank you.
And if I heard you talking about pickups and cars and traffic on Rosita Road. Well, we had 6,630 cars in 3 quarters, and 3,188 pickups. So, kind of shows you there is a lot of traffic going up Rosita Road, at least to the landfill.
Now, you have across the road landfill, or is this coming into the landfill?
Coming into the landfill.
Super. So 6,600 vehicles, and that's January to March. I expect low, and that's about 1,500. And then we get into the April to June, and we're about 2,100. And then we get into July through August, and we're up about 3,000. So I would expect fall to be pretty heavy because they're cleaning up from the summer stuff.
You're up quite a bit from last year,
Right.
revenue.
17,798 difference
Oh, thank you.
Between-
You did the math for me.
between 16 and 17 as far as revenue.
That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
That's more than 10%.
So we've serviced potentially 10,000 customers in 9 months out there.
It's a busy place.
And how's our cash received compared with last year? Any ideas?
17,800.
After 3 quarters this year, it's 143,449. Last year, after 3 quarters, was 125,650.
So we're 18,000 up.
So that difference is 17,700.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't want to talk there. My fault.
I think you should have a coffee shop out there.
What was the question?
I said I think you should put out a coffee shop up there.
The Starbucks or the landfill?
Yeah.
We need a swap shed. We can just put stuff in.
You know, that's something I was wondering about, and I don't think we want to
Get
get
as
into
much
that,
cool
but we,
stuff as I get in my store.
I think we need to think about trying to do some recycling. We talked about the last meeting, I think.
All right.
Will the state permit us to?
I guess from what I understand, we could do it because it's ours to do with what we want once it hits out there. So
Will that be extra manpower, or can you
It
take what
would.
you got?
you'd almost have to try to get volunteers to do that.
And mechanically, you would have to, as you dump a load of trash, someone would have to go through it and remove it, that thing's recyclable.
We kind of do that anyway. We already have a place out there where we stack things that are useful items, and we just put them to the side. And if anybody wants them, they can just pick through that and take them.
Any thoughts?
I think a swap thing, Joni Liebman would be all over that. I mean, she's really into that kind of stuff. So, I mean, that was an excellent thought. I thought, for real. I mean, I would kidding a little bit, but I mean, if there's useful items coming into the landfill
Right.
that can still be purposed, I would much sooner have someone get it than
Yeah,
bury it.
that's the way we feel about it too.
Let's think about that. Maybe as we get through budgets and stuff, we can look at it. Maybe it's something we can sell for
Sure.
a little bit to maybe pay the cost of having the operation going. But based, if I'm right on this, last year we lacked about 18,000 breaking even. And it looks like this year, Donna, we're probably going to break even. So congratulations. For not many landfills can say that, I don't think.
No.
Okay, anything else?
I believe that's it for this day.
Just old businesses, landfill, vehicle working okay, because I know we had real concerns about that, and we decided we were going to work on the compactor instead. Are we doing okay with that?
Yeah, the pickup's running good right now. The compactor, we kind of pieced it together until we get the engine, but it's running.
Good.
And so when we get the engine, then we'll put that new engine in it this year.
That's good.
And the loader is back at Road and Bridge again because we're trying to fix that leak behind the fan, but we'll get that.
Good job. Thank you.
So, all
Okay,
is well again.
thank you for a super job, bud.
Thank you.
Are you gonna be around this afternoon? I didn't make it out the other day.
Yeah, you did.
Are you gonna be out there this afternoon?
I gotta go to John Deere.
When will you be back?
By 2 or 3, I should be.
I'll meet you about 3 o'clock.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Rusty.
See you, Kevin.
Okay. Next is
Donna.
Oh, he's got it.
you're up, lady.
Good morning.
There's his
Thank you.
recycling.
Yeah, there you go.
He found that in the landfill. Okay.
Not much as usual. Your postage amount did come in.
Oh,
So
good.
then I'll give that to Peggy as I leave.
Okay.
On the propane, all I have is, my recommendation is to choose Norup gas again. They were actually $12 more, over 12,000 gallons. But they met all the other criteria and the others did not. So
Is that including the purchase of the tanks?
it does not.
Okay.
When I look through our budget, because we've had repairs, I really think we're going to have to wait until 2018 to buy the tanks on that.
Just because I don't remember, what was the cost of the tanks? I know we discussed it.
Do you know, it's all over the place. I can get them for about $6,100 if they're used. But for $78, I can get brand new. And so I'm going to try to get all parties to give me used and new to see what my comparison can be. But since we just weren't going to be able to do it on this one,
It's fine.
that I just banked it for now.
It's that way.
Do you have any thoughts for us on our projected income for next year? I see a little red flag. Should I be seeing a little red flag?
Do you know the revenues are down? We just need to be careful. When the taxes, that's it, the ebb and flow, and we've always been okay, but we do need to be good stewards of the money.
And this is where in the past we've had we discussed, and I think maybe a year or two ago, we did dip into reserves to balance the budget.
On there, and
And that's what the reserves are for, but we can't just take all of it at one time.
right, and some things. A lot of times in the budget, there are things that are just wishes and not needs. This time there are some wishes, but not as many as we probably would like. We do have some needs out there so I would think that we will end up in the reserves.
I think when we sit there and we look at their forms where they were supposed to do like a 5-year projection, we can probably take a look at that and prioritize where we go.
Have you and John had any thoughts about that?
Not, and it's that tricky little spot because John is trying to go, and so I'm not pushing John out of respect, so I'm just letting it flow as it goes.
I think that's the right thing to do.
Not, so, how it works, it will work, and
Because we're faced with one of the legislated reduction in mill levy, which is one hit as we don't get choice here.
correct.
And the other one I would look at, just in general terms, so you can start to think about it, I would like to see what our building permits and stuff look like this year compared to the last couple of years, because I see a lot more construction activity on the roads, meaning contractors and stuff, than I have in the last 2 or 3 years. So by looking at that, I'm anticipating what next year's valuation will look like.
Thankfully it wasn't as bad as it could have been on the valuation. So that's
Well, our valuation is down, what, $1 million? Roughly.
I would think that's maybe a little over, but probably by the time it's all comes out in the wash, that's probably a pretty good number on there.
Okay, anything from you folks for her?
No, we did our duty yesterday with the new person on board. So,
When does this gentleman start?
next week.
Super job, lady.
Thank you.
I appreciate all you do for us.
Great, thanks. And honestly, I appreciate y'all too. And so I know that's
Thank you.
like not the job, and you as well.
Well, we're trying to do
It's a thankless job y'all have.
left out there.
Well, I know, and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings ever. Ever.
Take care, thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is VSO.
Hey, how you doing? See you.
morning, sir.
Good.
Tim?
Good.
Hi, Tim.
Good. How you doing? Good. All right. Chairman, there's your original. And copies.
Thank you.
Working copy. Working copy. And one for the record. Okay. Pretty short today, so you guys are moving right along today. So, the monthly report, as usual, showing we had 93 appointments this month. Easy month. September, October, November, we kick off the Veteran Trust Fund, so the grant program. So that always counts for kind of the bump for sure. We had We had,
But you're still servicing them.
oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, they're still
Well,
walking the
and
door and utilizing your
yeah,
service.
and Ivan's here today. He's the grant administrator for the VFW, and we collaborate with this because it has to be administered by a
Join us.
nonprofit.
Ivan, you want to join us up there? You're welcome to.
I can sit back
Yeah.
here, that's fine.
And matter of fact,
It's his show.
this is the second year where they've administered the grant, and it's going so well that right now, with Gail, who's the grant administrator for the state, is kind of using our model statewide to encourage other counties to do it the way we're doing it, because we're collaborating, because it has to be administered by a nonprofit. So we use the application process. I do the intake. They come in to see me. We do all the paperwork. Ivan comes in on the days because we do the first, second, third Monday of the month, and he helps with that process. So the first in September, the second Monday, because first Monday was Labor Day, we had 35 beds come through in one day. So it was a kind of a crazy day. So, as a matter of fact, last February, if you remember, I had a report that we were invited down to Trinidad. They have a board that oversees this grant, and we were asked to do a presentation on how we're doing it here, because most of the counties, the VSO and the grant program are not collaborating. So it's gone real well. So Ivan's working hard. Matter of fact, Ivan's helping Warfield County. The American Legion down there just for the first time ever has got a $10,000 grant through the program, and he's going to Buena Vista. When? Or you did?
Already did.
You already did. So the county, what county is that over there? I forget what county.
We're just
Talking.
laying the groundwork right
Yeah,
now.
so he's getting asked to go around and kind of help the counties, because there are counties who have never participated in this grant program, ever. So anyways, and if you go to the fourth page, the database number is up to 401, so we continue to add every month more new vets. And matter of fact, tomorrow and Thursday, I got a couple of new vets coming in for the first time this week. So, okay. Second item, the Warrior Symposium. Last month when I did the report, I was leaving that night at midnight to go down to Atlanta for a 2.5, 3-day conference down there. The Warrior Symposium, which is put out by sponsored by the Warrior Partnership. And it's a collaboration. It went real well. I just have four examples of organizations that I had a chance to meet with while I was down there. Soldier for Life program. Transition program that helps soldiers, the Army Soldier for Life program, as they transition from active duty to civilian life and help them through that transition period. The first day down there, they had a breakout session on corporate, how do you tap into corporate America as a BSO or as a nonprofit and so forth, and partner with them. And during that session, I actually had a chance to meet with the panel, which is executive from Home Depot, Coca-Cola, SunWest Bank, and then the moderator was a former employee for Coca-Cola who for years his job was, he was the point of contact for all the nonprofits asking for money. So he gave a lot of good insight. I was able to explain the situation here. One of the things was we talked about looking for sponsorship, funding, grants, and so forth. And so I was able to talk a little bit about that. And after this breakdown session, which was attended by about 50 to 60 nonprofits around the country, Soldier for Life Lieutenant Colonel, I got his name mentioned there, Martis came up to me and said, hey, we'd be interested in knowing more about what you're doing. And he brought up an issue. He wanted to know how much federal funding we had in our budget for the VSO. And I said, none. He said, well, we need to talk about that. So we're in discussions, and he's doing some research for my behalf, because he thinks there may be some federal funding that we're missing out on. And he works out of the Pentagon. So that's where he works. But he's attached to the Warrior for Life program, Western Region. So this is part of his thing. He emailed me the other day, I mentioned about the town hall meeting with VA. So he's looking at whether he can come out for that meeting. He hasn't committed yet, but he is interested in see if he can swing that. So that was just one example. Then also, Military Warrior Support Foundation, the retired Sergeant Major Doherty came up to me, and they know each other, the Colonel and retired Sergeant Major. And Military Warrior Support Foundation, they're a nonprofit that helps for housing for soldiers, but also they also do help partner with organizations to do something like what I'm trying to do with find funding for So he's real interested. We've been in contact, email and so forth, and he said he thinks he might be able to find some funding, whether all of it or not. But he has, like I said,
That's funding for a building or funding for
yeah,
a building?
yeah, for building. So he says no promises, but he's poking around and he's contacting some folks for us and so forth. So he's initiated some of that, and so that was really good. And the other organization I mentioned from Denver DU, there's actually they have what's called the Institute for Brain Health, which is treating soldiers with traumatic brain injuries. Didn't know they were up there. He was at the conference. We had a good talk. Matter of fact, he's invited me to come up at some point, and he wanted to know if I would help him get the word out to the other VSOs in the state and so forth. So they have a program up there, no cost to the veteran. If we have any vets struggling, we do have a few here with traumatic brain injuries struggling, that we get them up there. They'll treat them, put them through the program with no cost, type of thing. So that was real good. And the last one, met Megan from Psych Armor, SPSYCARMOR. What they do is they provide, focus on providing online courses to caregivers who have husbands that are either PTSD or TBIs and they're struggling, and they want to educate themselves on these subjects so they can learn how to better understand what they're dealing with, which helps them do better as a caregiver and so forth. As a matter of fact, I'm looking to take some of those courses myself, and they said I can take all the courses I want for free connected with the subject. So, okay, so very beneficial. And that's just a small piece. Say that over 500, almost 600 people there. 40 states, nonprofits from all 40 states, and I discovered one thing is there's a lot of resources out there that we're oblivious to just because you don't know. And that's the whole point of the symposium, is bring them all into one spot. And the whole time you're there, you're talking about, hey, here's what we're trying to do. Oh, you need to go see this guy. You need to go see that
That's
gal.
good network.
And that's the whole purpose of that. So the other thing is that if as things come up, that they are a source of contact, and they'll get the word out saying, hey, we got this guy over in Custer County looking for this, and they'll send it out to all these nonprofits and say and then people will reach out and reach. So it was a really good conference.
Did you get a directory of who was present?
Matter of fact, it's on my phone. They sent out 2 weeks for the conference. They sent out an app for your phone with every attendee, all their information, every presenter, their bios, everything. And as the presenters were presenting, rather than have at the end of the presentation Q&A, everybody line up, you just start sending your questions in. And so it was, and I was involved with corporate conferences and all kinds over the years. Best run conference I've ever been to by far. So it was really good. Number 3, third item, town hall meeting with the VA on the 19th from 5 to 7 over at Lang Hall with the Lutheran Church. Got confirmation that about 6 people from the VA regional office will be here, 3 from VBA side. VBA is the benefit side. It includes GI Bill, home loans, disability, all those kind of benefits. And then we have probably 3 people from the VHA side, which is the Veterans Health Administration side. That all has to do with anything to do with healthcare, clinics, hospitals, and the choice program. So they're going to be here to have a good conversation about what's happening, what our needs are, what our folks are struggling with here, and have a good conversation about how to come up with some solutions in these areas. So encourage y'all to be there if you can make it. Pushing hard for this. My goal is to get at least 100 to 150 vets show up. So that's what we're pushing for. So, and then last thing on there I mentioned, I got contacted by John Grego, who's my point of contact on Senator Bennett's office. He wanted to know if I'd be willing to serve on their Academy nomination panel, which every year all the congressional offices have applications come in for high school seniors being recommended to academies, and so I was asked if I would participate on their panel on the 18th and 19th, which based on the numbers that they're telling me how many they got applications, I figure they're going to have 5 panels of 3 to 5 people, so they're going to try to screen 100 to 120 applicants in 24 hours.
And there'll be 1 or 2 pointers out of that. How many nominations will come out of Senator Bennett's office?
I don't know. They have a conference call coming up on the 23rd, I think it is. I forget what date. But anyways, I participate. It's kind of an overview. what to expect, questions on so on and so forth, and a better understanding of the whole process and so forth. So the 18th, 19th, which is a Saturday and Sunday, I'll be up in Colorado Springs for those 2 days. Do that. So, all right. That's all I've got for today. Any questions for me?
Just wanted, you may not have this number off the top of your head, and if you
Okay.
don't, I'm fine with that. In September 2017, you had 93 office visits. How does that compare to like last year?
Real close. We were right around 100 last year. Because the same thing, we kicked off the trust fund. And so the fall, last year, September, October, November, December, I think 4 months in a row, we were right at 100 or a little over in that time frame. So,
Thanks.
Yep. Any questions?
Anything we can help you with? that you-
Yeah, I've got one I want to pass along.
Um,
We spent part of a day with Congressman Tipton.
Okay.
And were you involved when somebody come up here to look at the feasibility of people going from here to Pueblo on their 45-mile limit?
No.
Okay, well, I'm going to quote the senator, or congressman, excuse me, you guys help me, but he basically said Custer County is the reason that the choice program was changed because they had somebody from Washington out, and they headed up here and got in hard scrabble in a really big snowstorm. And the man said, let's turn around, I agree.
Yeah.
So that's why nationwide, according to the congressman, nationwide, we were, the veterans group here, were the group that pushed the issue, and so they come here to look, and as they got up here, they realized that we had to waive that and had to make some changes. So my congratulations to you and the veterans, whoever else was involved in that. But that's the first case I can think of where Custer County actually had an impact nationally.
Yeah. Yeah, we've been in a lot of conversations with the Choice Program. Denver, matter of fact, to bring someone from the Choice Program. We're waiting on the new legislation. That's going to, what they're going to call this Choice 2.0. And one of the problems with the Choice Program has been with the contractor, because they had to contract the call center out and all that, and that's created a lot of problems and delays and referrals and so forth. So Secretary Chilton has recommended that it be all brought back in-house, do away with the contractor, and Choice 2.0 will hopefully take care of a lot of these issues. So, but yeah, so hopefully it'll be even better next year.
Congratulations to
All right.
the vets up here, the ones that made it happen. So that was from Congressman Tipton's.
Good.
Cool.
We need the exposure.
Okay, well, congratulations on
All right.
a super program.
You just keep plugging away.
Do you have any openings this afternoon?
I've got an appointment. I've got to go down, medical appointment. I've got to go down the hill for.
So you'll be out.
Yeah, I'll be out this afternoon. Yeah.
Okay. What about Thursday morning?
Thursday morning, yeah, I probably got open. I have to look at my calendar.
Come by a couple of times and I've been able to catch you.
Okay,
And
yeah.
then I didn't want to bother you on Friday because
No,
that's
it's
your
okay.
day you're out of the office.
Well, yeah, and this last Friday I was busy with my dad's officially enrolled in hospice care, in home hospice care, so that's been taking some time too, so.
Well, I'm coming. We have to finish up your evaluation.
Evaluation, okay. Can I call you?
Yes.
I'll leave you a message of what time.
Yes.
I know I got some openings. I got
Yes.
like 4 appointments scheduled for Thursday, but I know there's full
Put me in
openings.
for an hour and that's something that probably won't take that long.
Okay, okay, I'm gonna do that.
But I need it on
Okay,
Thursday.
all right,
Super. Appreciate it.
all right. You need to
Let's see, do we need
motion
to
to
accept this? We need a motion to accept the report as presented. Go ahead, Commissioner so moves. I'll second it. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries. There's your report. And you're off and running.
All right, thanks again, appreciate it. Thank you, ma'am, appreciate it.
Jim, what do you think of this? We're trying to stay really close to our time schedules without you having to wait.
I like it, I like it.
No, that's something we're going to try to do, so rather than have you guys sitting over here waiting for us for 2 hours.
That's okay, hey.
Thank you.
I do, thanks.
See ya.
Morning.
Good morning.
Vacationing
in Florida.
I've been, oh yeah, it was quite the vacation. 2 hours at a time, that was the motto. If you could get to the beach, sit in the chair. Once they brought sand back in and made a beach, then
Do you have any favorite lizards?
Iguanodon.
Yes.
Yeah, the iguanas were quite entertaining.
She was walking across the sidewalk or something down there, and the iguana come out of the bushes and run across.
I got assaulted by an iguana in Florida. But I
Okay.
got another picture of one on a New Holland tractor. I really liked that one because that's what I have is a New Holland. I'm glad to be back. Just kind of to summarize my report, I guess let's start with the public comment from a week or so ago. We had a public comment from a woman in the Greenwood area that said the reverse 911 is not working. First of all, just so everyone knows, reverse 911 is a trademark. We can't use that terminology. We use a system called Code Red. And the Code Red system is not the problem. It's a special messaging group that we're trying to create for the flood area that somehow she's lost out of. So we're trying to get our annual updates done through that, and then we're going to submit a ticket because Chuck and I are kind of at a loss on how this 54-acre parcel, which the property is there, is dropping this individual. And it's not to say that it's not dropping several individuals. And what we might have to do is redraw the whole flood area even bigger, and then we'll catch some more people that don't really need to be in that notification. But it might be a better way to go, be safe than sorry. And we've rarely used that, and that it parcel's not a particular issue. And then it also brings up the public safety issue of that homeowner's phone isn't even in their name, and so if a 911 call did come in, and then if my phone line says, Jay Prince, and the 911 call comes in, EMS, and folks are going to think they're heading somewhere else, so I'm going to put out a PSA and try to get everybody to update their landline information. I think that's good advice for everyone. So
We had an update from Chuck earlier this morning.
Oh, okay.
On our-
I read
Okay.
the response.
Okay, so yeah, he's been helping me, and it has sort of slipped through the cracks, and the responsibility really lies in the PSAP, but I ended up kind of picking it up because it was falling through the cracks. So, but I just wanted to follow up on that. So the big news on my program, besides that I went to Florida for 2 weeks, which I think will, I think the state supported our program really well with an extra 20% in grant funding this year, so I felt it was important to pay it back, and I think we represented Custer County in the South region really well. But that's over and done with, quite a learning experience. The only FEMA grant that we've ever had to my knowledge, which was the hazard mitigation grant, is officially closed out and done. So it's all paid, we're done. There's no other FEMA grants on the table. The 319 grant is officially signed and opened, and I have a meeting in Colorado Springs tomorrow with Tamara Allen from the Denver office, and thank you, and some folks from COCO, so Teresa, Carol, some of those folks, and it's going to be, I wanted to meet Tamara in person. I didn't want to do just a telephone conference because she's giving us an awful lot of money, and I want to know who she is and what her expectations are, so I'll be going to that meeting in Springs tomorrow, and we'll open that grant. That all has to be closed out by the 31st of October 2018, and then I got my first 2 quarters EMPG in, so I deposited $18,000 before I left, and then I got the $9,678 from Pueblo and got that deposited when I got back. So put some money into the bank, and we've still got a couple outstanding Homeland Security grants to wrap up before the end of the year. The Army Corps of Engineers ERDIC, the Engineering Research Group, is possibly getting some funding for their study in South Hardscrabble, so they're expected out in the second half of October. And other than that, we keep fighting for funding for Junkins Fire and haven't got anything, in the next recovery meeting will be October. Michael Schwab asked me if the next priority was still the joint shared position, and I said no, it's not. It's our alert and notification, which the state said needed to be the top dog, and once the 319 project is funding the staffing, and beyond that, Custer County has no projects because we have no public lands. Fremont County's going for a couple of big projects, but there's really no reason to say, yeah, we're going to support this joint staffing position, but you get 100% of the staffing. So that's kind of where we're at with that, and no word on the alert and notification
We have no
side.
wetlands, did you say?
We have no public public projects, like, most of our issues are on
On
private
private land,
lands
yes.
in the drainage. So he's going for a couple big catch basins and trying to get funding for, probably $750,000. I have no projects like that because it would have to be BLM land or somewhere. The CWPP plan is moving forward. We're working on it today. There's a meeting going on right now. Chuck and I snuck out to come over here, and we'll be back. And the EOP is done. We're going to insert the final resolutions. We just got West Cliffs signed one back. We got to get Silver Cliffs, and I'll work with Kelly to get all that done, and then we'll get those. A few of them.
EOP for your folks is Emergency Operations Plan for the county.
Yep. First update since 2002. It was overdue. Yeah. So we'll have to follow up on COOP and some of the other planning. So, yeah.
So your 911, you were in Florida when we had the 911
Right.
meeting, and everybody was asking for the IGA.
I've sent it out like 3 times. It's on the Google Drive, and Shannon is the only one who's ever made comments. I keep emailing out the link and saying it's here, give me comment. I did see Samantha's email on some updates. So, I missed that meeting, but there was some ideas I had from the El Paso County update, and they've got another update going on. But where our county has 2 commissioners and then some other folks, like I'm not a voting member, the sheriff's not a voting member, and in El Paso County they have citizens from some of the bigger communities that are actually members. So I don't know if that would be something, but that's kind of input I need. Should we be looking at a different mix of who is on this? Should there be some citizens, because we're all so stretched thin anyway, that maybe 1 or 2 key citizens would be somebody that could help keep us on the right track, and then keep that visibility, and then also, like, should OEM, should sheriff, should some of those other people be ex officio members, where, because we really have no, we have our voting members and our quorum, but we have no alternates, we have no terms. And one of my recommendations was that at your January appointments meeting, you make those appointments just like you do with RETEC and all the other the authorities. So I don't know if you would have that legal authority to do so, but at least if you maintained a list, even if you didn't do the appointments, because, and Wet Mountain Fire is an example, but Scott was their appointee, and then Scott bowed out, and now Dave is, but there's nothing official to say that Dave's term is through, 2 years or staggered terms. So if I could get some ideas how to tweak that.
Well, I know the next meeting, we moved it up.
Okay,
it's
good.
till November 2nd. So I guess what I'm going to ask, because everybody looked kind of dumbfounded on the IGA, is try to send it out again. Maybe it got lost.
Maybe I'll send it out again and say, reply that you've got this, because you're not letting me know that,
Yeah, nobody made a comment other than they were looking through.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't want to cancel the July meeting, because we're dragging our feet. I have some ideas, but I feel like I'm stepping out of my lane to say, wow, why don't we suggest this, this, and this, because I'm not a board member.
Well, we're looking to fine-tune some policies that never existed.
I agree.
To move forward, so we're trying to...
I think that's important. I know Search and Rescue is looking at contracting out their bookkeeping, and the price is extremely reasonable. So.
Personally, I would appreciate your input into these things. Don't feel like you're overextending.
Okay.
You'll bring to us something, I'm going to go, gosh, I hadn't thought of that, or something like that. So I appreciate the input.
Okay. Yeah, I'll make some suggestions, and I can send you the link if you want to take a look at it, even though you're not a board member. I mean, I think more eyes on it are good.
Have you looked at the letter we have from Beth Archuleta?
The one that we just got today? Mm-hmm. I didn't really take a comprehensive look at it.
She's also requesting that we make some changes on the board.
On the RETEC board, not on 911. That's different board.
No, I'm fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm going to stick around for that, as is Chuck. I think it's important for the county not to give up too much oversight there.
I agree.
And Search and Rescues also has an agenda item with Beth tomorrow night. So.
And I found one error in your report here.
Just one?
Well, I don't know. I don't remember.
Which one's that?
Towards the bottom, it's met with Dale Mullen, not Muller.
Oh, do I have a typo in there? Okay. Yeah,
I'm
okay,
gonna
I do have a
bring that to
typo.
your attention so I know that I read it.
Oh, thank you. No, I appreciate that. And I also got that on well, I've asked Jerry Tracel to put it on the SAR meeting. So I took my CenturyLink phone line and made some changes to it and brought my phone bill down from $75 a month to $50 a month. And I really don't even feel like that $50 a month is in the county's best interest for me to have a dedicated landline. But I was paying for rollover services and voicemail services and long distance services that I didn't need, but I didn't set the account up, and it's one of the accounts that's a standalone. But Dale came over, and so we had a meeting, and what I'm going to pitch to Search and Rescue and Shannon, and this is a follow-up on that communications meeting that we had, but if we trenched the line over to SAR and had the higher speed internet, if we could pay to do that, maybe Search and Rescue and Posse and OEM pay a share of that, we could get that higher speed internet. We use very, very little. It wouldn't be an impact. And then we could get rid of 3 landlines in that building, use voice over internet, and then even, because I use my cell phone. My cell phone travels with me 24/7. The landline is mostly telemarketers and folks. So, I think ultimately there would be a huge savings to do that.
That's what we're looking to do, because that bill is over $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Well, I think if I can get Search and Rescue on board, I think that building could be like the trial case to see what we can do. But if you figure, we'd be saving probably $240 a month in just CenturyLink bills. And Search and Rescue has 2 phone lines, and they only use them when there's a crisis. And the other nice thing about the voice over internet or the Google Voice, any of that is, you can look at your messages online and see them. And so you have these volunteers, they can look from home and see if they've missed a call, rather than getting into the office and finding out they've missed a Search and Rescue call on a grant or something that was 2 weeks ago. So, but I'm going to pitch that idea to them tomorrow. I'm also going to pitch the idea to them. I don't know if it goes in my budget or where, but that we get that building cleaned, and that the sheriff's office pitches in and OEM pitches in.
Well,
and
we looked
SAR.
at that before.
Yeah, and they've not given me an answer yet on getting her done. And
Because it was like $45.
I think it's $90 a month. We wanted it twice a month. And so I think they're on board. I just need a decision. So I've got some professional services in my budget that'll cover that, and then they could kick back to me on that. So, and then I'm supposed to be in Denver for classes next week, and we've got budget hearings. And
We talked about that briefly and haven't
Okay.
reached a decision. The problem we
Okay.
have with that,
you're not quite there.
if we try to do it in a meeting, is that we have to get John here,
Okay.
and we have to, of course, Donna's around.
Okay.
It's a little more than just bringing you on, and I would
Okay.
I'm going to defer to Donna to see what she
Okay.
thinks would be the appropriate.
Well, I have a 1-day class and then a 2-day class. So what I might do is cancel the 1-day class and take the recovery class is the big one that I think I need to take, because it's all on FEMA funding on disasters, and I got a taste of that these last couple
Part of
weeks.
this is what she missed last year during the jumping fire.
Yeah.
These courses
Yeah,
go
it's
for
makeup
like
for
once a year.
the academy, and so the only other way I could make it up is maybe next year. But so I've got kind of everything ready, and I'll tweak it. But I'll look at. I meant to look at which class. If the Tuesday class is the one that's the 1-day class, and then the Wednesday, Thursday, then I'll just probably cancel the Tuesday class and try to have Donna reschedule me
I'm
then.
going to say to look at that, because I know Brenda has already published
Okay. Do you know
all
when
of
I-
this in the paper.
Do you know when I am, Brenda?
You're scheduled for 1 p.m. on the 12th.
Which is
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay.
Um,
Okay, I'll look at my class and get back to Brenda.
Can we move? No. we can't.
what you could do is see if you could switch
Swap with
someone.
somebody? I think that's what I had to do last year for the academy, was switch with
Like,
somebody.
economic development is at 1 p.m. on the 10th.
Okay, I'll go look at that and then I'll.
Is there any
work
way
out
we
Monday.
can get her in on Tuesday? No way?
I don't know if she could swap with someone.
'Cause that would let you make your Wednesday, Thursday class.
Yeah, Tuesday's the 10th.
Okay, so maybe I could swap at 1
I
or
don't want to,
something.
I don't want to
Okay, I'll
violate
work,
what we
yeah.
had to publish legally, so.
I'll work that out with Brenda later and see if I can
Well,
swap with
actually,
somebody.
Donna would.
Yeah,
Donna?
you're going to
Okay.
have to do
Okay.
this, because John's going to need to know also.
Okay, and then the one, I left the 319 grant off, and so I added it on a worksheet, of where I think it goes, but that's really a John decision of where it goes. Anyway, I'm not even sure, where that funding, if it should come in and out of my budget or if it should be some other line item on the county. But like public health or.
What this is, folks, for the Wetmore fire, I maybe mentioned this earlier, but Cindy's been able, working with some other folks, to secure a $373,274 grant to include the oversight of the project, debris removal, septic rehab, and site restoration there in Wetmore where the Troll fire come through. So this is an example of $370,000.
And I got the press release to both papers, so yeah.
And there's no matching.
Nope. Well, there's $14,000. I'll have a firm. So in the grant detail that I saw, there's no matching, but on the application there was matching, and the matching is going to be in kind. So I need to get a clarification tomorrow on.
But we've got enough.
Yeah, they gave us extra money. The grant application was for $314,000, and they gave us extra money.
But your involvement in here can be matching.
I'll find out tomorrow. You get into some of the state and federal, and my time doesn't count on some of these grants, depending on the grant. So I'll find out all those details in that meeting tomorrow. But anybody else's time, might, like if Ruth Roper's involved, or Bill Donnelly's helping, or whoever down in Wetmore, anybody, if we're using the community center, then part of that space rental or something, and if we had a meeting down there or something. We'll have to keep track of all that kind of stuff.
We have to use road and bridge to haul away a little bit of debris or something. That could be matching funds.
Yeah, we'll see how.
I don't know why, but.
Oh, I just attached it and it went to everybody.
Oh.
Bob gave it to me. So.
Okay, so you're okay.
Yeah, I'm good with that one. So, yep.
Okay, what else?
That's all I've got. I'll stick around for retouch.
Can I just ask a question on, in your report, on participation of 2 webinars and regarding the FEMA PDM grants?
Uh-huh.
At the bottom you said, recommend a strategy to pursue the funding opportunities in the future, including the HMP updated goals. And then you wrote, update, it's highly competitive, and building codes improve the odds considerably.
Yep.
Where did that come from?
When you get into the grant application, there's like 3 questions you answer on page 1. You enter your name and who you are, who's applying for funds. Question number 1 is, do you have an FEMA approved hazard mitigation plan, yes or no? If yes, when was it approved? Question 2 is, when does it expire? And question 3 is, do you have building codes?
Thank you for that.
And then if you have building codes, they want to know your scoring. There's a, similar to the ISO ratings for fire, there's a scoring for how you enforce those building codes. And it doesn't say you have to adopt any particular code, it's just you have to have something.
Good, thank you.
Okay, anything else? I guess the last thing I'd like to see if you guys put it together, just don't spend a lot of time. You've been on board now about 1.5 years, right?
Which board? On board as a county employee? Yeah.
Can you go back and show me how many dollars of grant monies we've gotten? Which that includes, your salaries and stuff, but I'd just like to see what we've gotten by working with Homeland Security. Oh, you already got that?
Right down there. Yep.
Did I get this?
No, because that's part of my budget thing next week. That's the worksheet I'm working on. So if you look at, you can have a copy if you want to see it, but it's going to be part of. It's basically you've got a form that you write it in on your budget, but I was working on my own spreadsheet. So for 2016, we had $58,074 Homeland Security, $43,750 was the federal state share of the hazard mitigation plan. The 114860 was Westcliff Silvercliff share of the hazard mitigation plan, and then the 22776 was the EMPG. So 2016 was $130,749,000.
Whoa. Okay. You're down at the bottom.
2017 is about 51.5. I'm actually looking at my estimate. It's going to come in about 49, and then I'm estimating what we could get, and I've got some estimates on the EMPG, we're eligible for up to $43,000. They gave us 36. So you're eligible for 50, but they're giving us about 41.8 right now. If you take away the contract labor, it comes out to about 44 point something. But that's where we got to keep working with the state to increase that number. And they did, like, we went from a $30,000 top, which I only got 27.7 because I didn't have enough expenses in 2016. So we went from 30,000 to 36 on the grant application. So I had to deobligate a little bit last year. This year I'm not going to deobligate anything. And so they upped us 20%, and they actually cut Orfano County back. So it's, I think when you go back to the state and how well you're performing to your EMPG, then, they'll either give you more money or they'll cut you back. And, they actually can come in and cut all the funding. And that's where Christy reviews my work and comes back to you guys and says, we got to change. This isn't working right. So,
I figured you wanted that one back.
And we have this 446,000 for 18.
yeah, when you count the 373 in there.
But all of those have been approved.
The 13.5 is some existing, and it's in my budget application.
Yeah,
but
I mean, that's a
yeah.
solid funding.
Pretty solid. I should find out at Thursday's South Region meeting.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not a blue sky deal.
No,
We're pretty close.
it's and we applied for a lot more and didn't get our share in the South Region. So I've talked to Shannon about having somebody else back me up and being more competitive at the South Region level for some of that funding.
So you were expecting total
About 426.
425 or 426 in
2018.
18.
Yeah. Is that too much detail? For your question?
No, we have in the last 2 years, including what we have in hand for this coming year, over $600,000 in grants that we've received from FEMA and from Homeland Security.
Yeah.
So that's $600,000 that we've had come in towards paying her salaries and doing this mitigation work and so forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get at. with the
Yeah.
number.
And I'll try to keep good track of that. But
So this is good enough.
hopefully we're adding some value and generating funding for the program. So
Well, I think the fact that we have our emergency plans in place, the fact that we've had an emergency that we worked through, the fact that we've had a tabletop exercise that was a statewide exercise that we were commended for the operations. I think all of that is a very plus that wouldn't have occurred if we hadn't at least got some of these monies. Well, you see, that's where our salary, most of our salary comes from. Okay.
Great job.
thank you.
I'd like to know, how did you get notice to go down to Florida?
So I was up at the LEPC conference in Breckenridge, the hazmat conference, and the first day there, they started getting word that the governor was looking to put people together. And so I was actively recruited at the LAPC. And so all the field managers, Christy started getting names, and so I left the conference about 4 hours early, came home packed. Christy picked me up at 7 p.m. We got a room, the state paid for rooms at the Denver area airport, and we got up at 4:30 and flew out. So it was wham bam. It was like packing for a SAR mission. I took my backpack. We slept on floors for the first 4 nights. So and then we finally got around.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience. I've always been told you should do at least one deployment. It'll open your eyes. So, and then Bob asked me the other day, how many times have you seen a power line broke and the wires didn't break and the power pole's broken? And I said, you mean in the last 2 weeks? How many times have I seen that? Like probably a few thousand. It was an interesting deployment too, because I've never been to the Keys, and that strip is about 151 miles long. So. Very eye-opening.
Give a brief summary of the things you were involved with down there. I told them about the county building surveys.
Yeah, so the first thing we did was set up a shelter at Florida AMU University in Tallahassee, That's where we
where you flew into.
that's where we flew into. We had to report to the state EOC. Then we deployed to the state logistics center, so we drove in a caravan to Orlando during the middle of the hurricane with nobody else on the highway pretty much, and trees coming down, and spent the night there. And all of our phones kept going off every tornado warning that came through. So, and then the next day we went to Miami-Dade. Our new assignment was Miami-Dade, and then as we got there, they said, no, you're either going to Naples or Key West. We're reassigning you, or, the Keys. And then we got reassigned to Monroe County Marathon. And so we drove into Marathon, and we're dodging iguanas on the highway, and got to there. And so the takeaway there was continuity of operations plan. Their county facility, county seat was in Marathon, one of the hardest hit areas. They had no power, no water, no sewer, no cell phones, no landlines. They had a backup generator. And they had 3 porta potties for about 100 people, and we rolled in there and spent the night on the floor there. And so continuity, and I was like, why didn't they move their emergency operations center back up to Key West or somewhere, or Key Largo? So, but then I got assigned to Corey Stark's team. I got pulled off Christie's team and went to Key Largo for 4 days and worked logistics and social media. Had at the radio station trying to interview me a couple times, and I was like, nope, not going on the air. I'm from Colorado. I'm not from Monroe County. And then I got reassigned back to Marathon to the Emergency Operations Center. About got thrown out when the governor came to visit because I had already signed in and went in a side door and got grabbed by some Secret Service folks. And I was like, okay, now why is security all of a sudden like 10 times tighter than it was half an hour ago? And then worked on county building assessments. And I actually got to go out with the deputy manager, Bruce Holloman. Went out with him for 3.5 days doing county assessments on buildings. There were 2 teams, and I needed a partner, so that was the whole FEMA public assistance stuff, and it was really interesting to see. And some of that's probably insured, and some of it's not. The parks got hit really, really hard, so airport got hit, but they had a lot of their stuff. They had done really, really good work too.
Some other things she mentioned to me was briefly cover them, as the differences in the command centers.
Oh yeah, yeah, low tech, high tech. Got a lot of really good ideas if we ever move forward when we move forward with our project. But just how you set things up, how you organize them. Some of the GIS is so important to integrate when we pull that piece together. They had some really cool reporting.
One place when they go, you had as a table in the back of the firehouse, wasn't it?
Yeah, we were stuffed in the assistant fire chief's office, 5 of us working out of his office, but we got the job done. So I worked 172 hours in 2 weeks.
Okay, anything else? I'm sorry, folks, but I wanted you to hear what, some of the things that we have going, and you can sense, I think, the real world experience she's got to bring back to us in Custer County. Sure, we're not going to have a hurricane, but we darn sure could have 6 feet of snow and those type of things. Well, this again is that learning experience that allows us to do the best job that we can. Okay.
You'll never be the same.
We do get some hurricane force winds around here occasionally. Thank you.
Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you.
Oh, she's not here?
They had to leave.
Yeah,
They had a call?
They had a call. I got here, and 5 minutes after we got here, they got a call.
Okay. That does complete our committee reports. Now we move down to old business, and we have the RETAG board. Who wants to cover that?
Well,
Or do we need to postpone that because the EMS folks had to leave?
Yeah, this was Beth's agenda item, and they had a call out. That's why I put it on both today's and tomorrow's, because she was like, well, I'm here, but I don't know if we need a call or whatever.
We'll just move this to tomorrow.
Okay, well, I'd like to make it just a few comments.
Sure,
I'm not
please
going to be
do.
here tomorrow.
Give you the floor.
And that is about I know she got a letter from her about RETAC appointments and stuff like that. You guys have to decide on that. The reason I stayed on RETAC was because there has been instances in the past where we have spent RETAC funds and they were spent on things that should not have been spent on using RETAC funds. And the county could get burned for that because we get the money from RETAC. If the RETAC then says, no, that's an inappropriate, and then we reimburse somebody for an expense, and then the RETAC says, no, that's an inappropriate expense, the county eats it. Now, they've just changed everything now so that if you want RETAC funding, you go to the RETAC and say, this is what I want to spend the money on, and then the RETAC will say, yeah, that's an appropriate thing, you're approved. So the county doesn't have any exposure anymore as far as spending inappropriate funds and then we have to eat it. So that's one good thing. And then but they still want the commissioners to be involved in it because it's county money, and it does have to be spent on medical related stuff, but it doesn't mean that EMS gets all the money. Fire's got medical needs, search and rescue, the sheriff's department sometimes, public health. All of those people are eligible, depending on what they're asking for some of these RETAC funds. And so it'll be up to you guys to at least say, okay, that's an appropriate. And we're only getting 13,000, I think, this year. That's what I heard. This fiscal year. We used to get 15, but now it's only 13. So it's just kind of up to the commissioners to say, yeah, that's okay, but they should also listen to some of the other departments, not just EMS, and say, okay, that's okay. And the reason I bring that up is because most of the time it's either equipment or education. Equipment's pretty
straightforward.
Pretty straightforward and safe, stuff like that, as long as they're not buying something that they'll never ever use. The education, most of that is pretty good. Most of it's for classes and stuff like that. But we've had instances in the past where we've spent thousands of dollars to send somebody, for example, to EMT school, and they either never graduated or they never served. And we've just thrown that money out the door. And so there needs to be something. They haven't asked for anything like that for quite a few years to send anybody to school. But I had suggested to the hospital district that they get some sort of guarantee or something that if we're going to fund somebody, send them to school, to EMT school, that they're going to serve, that they're going to graduate and serve. They used the excuse in the past, the person doesn't have the funds to pay for the courses themselves, and then we reimburse, so we would just pay for it up front, and then they would drop out, or they would graduate and then go work for somebody else.
So these are people we paid to go to school that we never got any benefit from.
Correct, right. And I just want to make sure that the commissioners understand that. And that's a perfectly legitimate thing. I mean, it would be great to get some more EMTs or paramedics up here. We want to encourage that. Okay, but we want to also make sure that they're going to serve. If we're going to pay them to go to get those certifications, that we get our money's worth. And that they serve.
What does that normally cost?
Pueblo Community College isn't that expensive. I think it's like $1,000 a quarter, and I think it's 2 quarters or something
So
like that.
you got
Depends on
$2,000
the
or more invested.
Yeah. And actually, years ago, they paid for mileage. They paid somebody to drive 50 cents a mile back and forth to Pueblo to go to school, and that added a couple $1,000s. And the RETAC said, after that, RETAC said, no, we're not paying for that kind of mileage anymore. So if you want to go to school, you drive yourself.
I think another thing you also have done, though, is worked on these RETAC budgets, haven't you?
Yes.
You've basically held those through.
Yeah, I tried to keep all that stuff together, and I was doing all the vouchering and that kind of stuff. Now that the county's kind of out of it, because they will be getting the money directly from the RETAC. The county's no longer an intermediary between the RETAC and the agencies, so we won't have to be vouchering things like that.
Okay, so since you're not going to be here tomorrow, Beth is requesting that other people come on board not including who your replacement's going to be. Cindy, the same, because of a busy schedule. I'd like to have your input on whether you want to still remain on this board, or you think the new person should be on the board.
As far as my replacement, no, I don't think so. The reason I was on it is because I used to be on the RETAC board when I was with the ambulance corps and all that kind of
Okay.
stuff. And make sure the financial stuff was appropriate done. That was a request from the finance department. I think Cindy would be a great one on it. Now, as far as her attending the meetings every month, I don't know that she needs to do that. Because most of those meetings, they're all about medical stuff. They're medical training, and this is what's happening in the hospitals and all that kind of stuff. And she may be interested in that, but mostly it's for EMS stuff. But I think she would be a good,
Liaison?
position, because she sees all of the emergency services in the county. And so she can make sure that fire gets their shot at, search and rescue, sheriff's department, and that kind of stuff. So to make sure that all of the different emergency agencies have access to the money should they need it. The other appointees, the EMS people are fine, because most of the stuff that they discuss at the meeting is EMS stuff. So, subjects.
I think the other hole we've had is we don't have any alternates. Gail Stoltzfus is the only listed alternate. So, obviously I'm not going to be able to make every meeting if you keep me on, or you could put Alyssa and I on as one of us appointed, one of us as an alternate. I think the county needs to keep representation. You don't want it to just be EMS and fire and search and rescue.
Right.
You need to, like Chuck's saying, you might see those gaps and see those bigger needs with your stakeholders. So, and typically it's done in January, but we haven't made any
Well,
changes.
who appoints this board?
You do.
Does the authority rest with us?
Yes.
For the Custer
So-
County appointments, it's you.
So-
That's part of the
we-
appointment process.
So we have the flexibility to put on whatever we think we need on that board.
Well, there's 3 primary members and 3 alternates. Is the way the RETAC is set up. You can
And who are the 3 primaries then?
right now it's Beth, Cindy, myself, and Gail. Right now is still
The alternate.
the alternate.
So this is a current board members.
Right.
So what role, why do we go to those meetings?
Well, there's the RETAC funding for the medical equipment and training, but then there's also the bigger grants, and like Search and Rescue just got a $58,000 grant. It was 50%. EMS got a grant for an ambulance or a new shell. I mean, at the region you serve, and so you recuse yourself from the county level. But there's a bigger pot of money on the capital grants, and I don't remember what that grant fund is called. But
the provider grant.
Provider grant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's it comes back to some grant funding. I go to the meetings, and a lot of it is over my head in terms of when they start getting into the medical. But Los Animas County's EM goes. I think we're the only 2 EMs that attend. It's just hard to get down there every month.
It's in the same spot every month.
It's usually at the public health building.
But this needs to be more than just EMS as the 3 board members, doesn't it?
It should be, to make sure that everybody has some input into how you're going to spend this $13,000.
Wouldn't Dave Tonsick make a reasonable
Yeah.
board member? Not as an alternate, but as a board member?
Yeah, he would.
If he's willing to attend.
If he's willing to attend.
And you meet every month?
Right now they're doing twice every 2 months.
Every 2 weeks?
No,
2 months.
Every 2 months, yeah.
And I'm not sure the county policies on mileage reimbursement, but if it's a county appointment to a board, then, Chuck and I get what we get as county employees, and I drive my county vehicle, but I don't know if, if fire came on board, if they're eating those mileage costs, if search and rescue, if somebody even did volunteer to go. I think the problem with our volunteers is it's the same 10 people, and we're asking them to do one more thing. And so I have, Beth is going to talk to the SAR board tomorrow night, but it's extending an already taxed volunteer group.
I guess what I'm thinking is that maybe, an EMS person and public health and fire might be the three logical entities to bring in because public health works through us.
And
I
you
don't
could
know,
put
that's
me
just
as
what
the
you thought.
alternate to public health.
I saw a hand over here somewhere.
Yeah, just so you know, Alyssa will be here tomorrow, and she did say that she
She
would be
wanted to.
willing.
She said that at the last meeting.
Yeah, so.
But I'm just trying to, as we have the checks and balances there.
And I'd be fine with being an alternate if you needed me to do that. I'm busy enough.
Okay.
No, I just wanted clarification because Chuck won't be here, so I
Yeah,
know where you
and
stand.
I think that's right. And
Yeah, it's just,
And I won't be here tomorrow either.
I think it's so important not to just have EMS on this. I concur with what you're both saying. I'm learning this myself now, so this really makes good sense.
yeah, most of it will go to EMS because they are the main medical
Sure, but they're not
emergency service,
the
but everybody else pitches in and they have, we just bought some scoop stretchers for the fire department. Search and Rescue has their wilderness first aid training that they put all their people through, which is essential because it's search and rescue that takes care of those people until they can get them to the ambulance. So they've got to have that medical training.
So when you said we have 13,000 in the fiscal year, does that mean till this December? What's their fiscal
No, their
year?
fiscal year is July 1st to
July.
June 1st. It's the state fiscal period. So,
And then what happens with that funding? Who makes the final decisions on who gets the money from the grant?
well, basically the procedure is that the requesting agency is going to fill out the grant application and stuff, and they bring it to you guys. And then you say, yeah, okay, that's cool with us. And then they take it to the RETAC. And then the other 4 counties in our region, okay, because the requesting county has to recuse themselves from the approval process. The other 4 counties look at it and go, yeah, that's a worthy allocation of funds, and then they will approve it. And then they can go out and spend the money, and then after it's a reimbursement grant. So before we used to be able to buy stuff for them and give it to them. Now it's a reimbursement grant, so they would have to go out and spend the money for whatever that purpose is, and then they turn in all the receipts and stuff to the RETAC reimburses them. So the county's out of the business of collecting all the invoices and
We don't
writing
have the
checks and all
financial
that kind of stuff.
responsibility we used to have, but we do have the responsibility of oversight.
Right, exactly.
And I know
exactly.
Search and Rescue is going to bring in their $2,500 request for wilderness first aid. That's on the agenda tomorrow, and then they'll be bringing that to you so they can submit it. And so, that's the concern, is that just, the funding process doesn't change and everybody still has an opportunity to go after those funds. Otherwise, they've got to come up with a plan B as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anything else that you want to say? Means you're not going to be here tomorrow? Goodbye, huh?
Carry on.
Thank you for permission.
Thank you.
Chuck, thank
See
you
you
for
all
all
later.
you do, and thank you for being on this thing and watching out for our interests.
No problem.
I so
No
appreciate
problem.
that, guys.
See you at 2.
See you too.
Okay.
Okay. Next item on the agenda will be the county health insurance.
So I sent you guys the applications, but we also need a resolution. And Clint said he could have that ready for tomorrow, so I don't know if you want to table this till tomorrow.
I would. That's my suggestion.
Yeah,
Yeah,
just,
that's fine. She said they needed a resolution. I was busy all day yesterday, didn't see the request until late, so I'll have
Just
it
do it
tomorrow.
tomorrow, we're fine.
Can I need to make sure though that I have those applications, that they don't get misplaced and that we
See, you see
sign
who
them
she come
tomorrow.
to?
Hey,
Because I didn't make copies.
She knows. She knows. I sometimes carry stuff off that I shouldn't. Apparently there was another commissioner a lot of years ago from down in Wetmore that did the same thing. So they accused me of being him. Okay, county new business. Vacate the road in Sierra City request.
My name's Kelly Cole.
hi Kelly.
Nice
to see you, Kelly.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. It seems pretty insignificant compared to what you guys are talking about in here, but So, Pat King and I, we have a couple little lots in Sierra City that are next to each other. I'm going to give you guys these here. There's one here. One there. I might have to share when I get another copy here, but this just shows our assessors of our ownership here. Mm-hmm. But off of Tralee and Killdeer, there's a little parcel between our properties. You can kind of see it on this one here. This is my property here. This is Pat King's property here.
And where is Killdeer?
Killdeer is right here, and Tralee's right here. This is in, I guess you guys are pretty familiar with the Lake Louise area.
Yeah, but I was just looking on here, I didn't see Tralee.
Yeah, so it's this property right in between here. So the reason I talked to Jane McCarty, and before she turned the roads over to the county, she was going to give this property up and we were going to vacate it. The only reason this property was put here is because so she wouldn't be landlocked if this was given to one or the other. But what we'd like to do, since what happens here is that people come in, they pull their trailers and stuff in here. Our entrances into our lots are right there. And then when I have a trailer or something I want to bring in, I get locked out or blocked out. And we maintain this. There's no access to the state.
Access here. This is a dead end.
It is. So we were wanting to vacate this property. We maintain this property anyway, keep it mowed and keep it clean, and then just split the property in between here, between these properties, and then increase our tax base or whatever on net it to our assessors.
Interesting.
Yeah, Jackie Dobby was in here. I think she had a request.
Yeah, Jackie was saying that, and you're talking about where?
This little piece right here.
She said that on the assessor's maps it looks like it dead ends there, but on the recorded maps it does not dead end.
It does not.
Right.
It shows it as a through road through the state property there.
That's what she told me this morning. So I think that's something that you all are going to have to work with Jackie on.
Right. Yeah, I spoke to Jackie about this. She asked us to table it to get more information before we make any decisions. I told her I thought that was appropriate because what you're requesting is not totally unusual, but the question of what goes on beyond is not clear at this point. Mm-hmm. So I hate to ask you to come back at a future meeting, but I would like to get Jackie to give us a better assessment of what's going on. Maybe JD needs to be involved also in terms of what's going on down there so we can make a more informed decision. That just makes sense to me.
I've got a question. If I remember right, we own these roads because of the stuff we did with McCarty, right?
Just recently, yes.
Correct.
So we're going to be giving away county property to two landowners.
Correct.
Correct. Which is different than just vacating a road. That's correct.
We would be deeding.
So there may be some other ramifications from a legal standpoint. I don't oppose what you're suggesting.
Yeah.
But where we ended up, it's a county property.
Yeah. And we were trying to get this done before it was a county property, but we didn't realize I had Jane McCarty come over there about a week after she told me that. A little late. So, but it would have been a problem. I don't want to mess anything up for future growth anyway if this became a through road at that point. But we're just at the problem. We can't post or anything, and people.
You've got a road here, don't you? No, this isn't the road.
No, it blocks into here. The B hill.
Well, that's that drainage. Okay.
Yeah, drainage here, and then there's a road that accesses it into here and here, and then this is the main property over here. So. It was just something we're trying to alleviate a problem, especially for her. If I had too many problems, I can cut another road into here. But if somebody blocks us up here, we've had dump trucks and trailers and stuff, and then we come in with our campers or trailers, and we can't get in because they think it's just a parking lot here. And then it causes us problems to get into our properties, especially her. Yeah, she has only one access to here, so.
I know we're going to wait for Jackie, but I'm just wondering, is there any kind of signage there now?
No, because it's public property. I can't post it.
But we can we?
We can.
I
Because
mean,
we're going, it's kind of road.
yeah, I mean, if it was posted where it was no access there.
But we'll say no parking.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure that's the answer, but.
yeah,
But it's a,
yeah. Before
Point to
McCarty,
discuss.
it would have been something that maybe could have happened. Another thing that happens also, when they plow this road, a lot of times they plow it right into here, and then we can't get into our properties
Oh, my.
all winter long. So they take all the snow, instead of pushing it to the sides, they pile it up, and again, now she can't get in, and I can't get in, so that's another, it's just an access problem for us. We just want to be able to
Well,
access our
but
property.
you got the right to get to your
Yeah.
property whenever you want to.
Yeah,
Right.
so,
okay.
We need to, I feel we need to get some more information.
that's fine, yeah.
We need to talk to our county attorney about, if we have to. Report it to us, let me run with it,
Okay.
and we'll get you back on the agenda in the near future.
Okay.
And hopefully we can get this resolved. Would that be okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it makes
Yeah,
sense,
sorry.
man, but my problem is, I don't have a bit of a problem if it's just a regular right of way.
Yeah,
But now that it's county property, it's like giving away part of this courthouse lawn. I mean, it's, somebody's gonna raise Cain about it, you know.
anyway, thank you. Will you contact us through, okay,
We'll
you got my
con-
information,
I
I
will
guess.
contact you.
Okay.
Jackie has your, I don't personally, but does Jackie have your information? Never mind. You're on the map. I'll
Yeah,
find
okay,
you, I
okay.
promise.
I've got
I'll
a-
drive out there.
Here, I got a business card there.
Thank you.
I can throw it to there.
Okay.
Okay,
Well, thank you for your
okay,
time.
thank you, appreciate it.
We'll do what we can for you.
Okay, sounds great,
I understand your
Thank you.
issue.
Thank you, you too.
Appreciate it, ma'am. Thank you.
Okay. Cost share with the town of Westcliff.
Sidewalk repair. Sidewalk repair.
Sidewalk repair.
Okay, that's me. Hi, folks. I'm Mike.
Nice to
Mike, good to see you again.
See you.
Good to see you got that fluorescent green on.
Yeah, 'cause I have it now for the summer. We're in a spot where, as a town, we're going to have to repair the sidewalk in front of your courthouse. Part of it, at least, this part is in CDOT right away.
Sure.
So they have a say in how we can do that and what it needs to look like when we're done.
So this side of the right of way comes to this side of the sidewalk.
Correct.
So you're not talking about the north part either, just this part?
Though this is the part that's in CDOT right away.
Okay.
So
Yeah, there's no CDOT on that side of town.
Right, but I mean, I just want to make sure I'm understanding the whole sidewalk issue.
okay.
So we're not discussing the north
We could be
side?
discussing everything
Okay.
because whatever we do out here, of course, has to match up with what you have, heading east, elevation-wise. I'm in negotiation with CDOT right now as to what we can do, what we can get by with, what they really want to see there.
Do you anticipate tearing out the shrubs and stuff there?
CDOT's disposition right now is they would like to see everything in their right-of-way be accessible, handicap accessible. So they don't want to see steps or stairs in their right-of-way at all. So a lot of things could go away here. The elevation of that sidewalk could drop quite a bit. There could end up being a retaining wall on this side of the sidewalk to achieve our handicap ramp inclines that we have to achieve. The sidewalk may have to come back this direction some. A lot of things might happen. We don't have a design yet. I'm working on trying to minimize this project and this design. Whether we can do that by doing some other things at the courthouse, if you folks would want to look at handicapped access and entrances and parking in your parking lot with signage and in your back parking lot with signage. and access that way. It may help us to minimize the impact of this project out front here, if you have that going in your parking lot and in your back. We just don't know yet. CDOT's a little bit slow at giving me the answers that I want, but we will have those.
Will they permit diagonal parking out here?
No. Not on the highway. Not on the street.
Are you trying to get this done before snow comes?
No, we're not.
Okay.
They wanted us to. They asked us to. We don't have the money to do that right now. We don't have any grants available to us that are going to help us with this project. We're not eligible for another CDOT grant until 2021. Some other folks, DOLA, will not help with this because it's not in our core commercial area and it's in CDOT right away. So we may be in a position of paying 100% of this project ourselves. That's the other question we have for you folks. Would the county consider participating in that cost? We don't have anything to hold you to that, of course, but it might get things done quicker. We have a permit open already to do this project. It's good for a year. They would like us to get that done in a year.
The first response I have, and you're facing the same deal, I'm sure, is that our revenues are going to be down this year.
Yes.
We've got a $7 million in requests for a $6 million budget. So we got $1 million we've got to come out of. I mean, we asked them to request what they thought they needed. Now we're going to put that together. But I'm guessing you're probably looking at, what it was going to cost, $200,000?
We are looking at the low end of this could be $20,000. The high end could be $50,000
Total or to us?
total. And again, I'm negotiating with them to try and minimize this project as possible.
So it's whatever we could come up with to help.
Whatever you folks come up with would help. The other thing I would like someone to work with on this project, the design phase of this project. Someone that I can talk to from the county on a regular basis over the next couple of months.
I know you're looking at me
work on the
right now
design.
sideways. Okay. I'd be.
As I get
happy to
answers,
help you.
as I get answers from CDOT, and I'm able to
The
work.
reason
on
we're
this
looking at her,
design.
she's a buildings
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Little did she know when she
Guess-
said yes.
Guess it's me.
Alrighty.
I'll be happy to work with.
Okay.
What about the north side?
The north side is going to have to match up with whatever happens on the highway frontage, elevation-wise, and all that has to be accessible. So if we end up
Redoing the curb and gutters over there.
redoing the curb and gutters over there.
I would just like to say for the record that as the attorney for the town of Westcliff, I may be involved in contracting with CDOT, assisting the town of Westcliff in this project. So I would request that I be recused from any activity in this particular project. I feel it's potentially conflict of interest, and I don't want to give that impression. I just want that on the record.
Okay, and that's really, I want to
be
make you
happy to
folks
work with
aware.
you.
I don't have numbers to give you. I don't have numbers to ask for, but I want to make you aware that it's going to happen. Something's going to happen. If it doesn't happen quickly enough, we may end up, because of our involvement with CDOT, because we're in there right away, and because of the town's insurance company. Because even though this is not in town right away, this is CDOT right away, the town has been responsible for maintaining sidewalks throughout the town. Whatever right away they're in, our insurance company is telling us that there's going to come a time real soon when we are going to have to close off parts of this sidewalk, rope that off, because it's becoming too dangerous for people to walk on.
It is. That corner is
It's
atrocious.
bad.
It's
Numerous
really
trip
bad.
hazards on the sidewalk. So another reason that we'd like to get this taken care of as quickly as we can, because we're in a block on the sidewalk.
What kind of wall, retaining wall are you looking at?
It'd be if we had to lower the elevation where they want us to lower it, it's going to be about a 3-foot concrete wall.
I'd like something more decorative than concrete, because this is an old historic building that's got a lot of character to it, and I think it should be something different than just a poor concrete wall. It can be made, maybe pour concrete and bricks or blocks or something put on the outside, but it's, I know that costs more money.
More
but at the
decorative
same-
is more expensive.
But at the same time, there is a certain amount of aesthetics, I think, associated with the building, so. Okay, well, Mike, we got another opportunity.
Yes, we do. All right, thank you.
We'll try to do the best we can. Thank you.
Do you know how to reach me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure do.
I'll bet John, I can get all kinds of grants for the county to pay for it.
Yes.
Thank you for your vote of confidence, Clint.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay. Next item, public comments. Yes, sir.
Good meeting, thank you.
Thank you. I thought you had something to say other than that. Okay, John.
Waited the whole time to say that.
Yeah, thank you. All right, I have nothing else on the calendar, on the agenda. No one else has any items. I will declare the meeting adjourned.
You got
at
executive
11.
session, but it's
Pardon
on
me?
executive session was the last thing on the agenda.
Excuse me, do we need an executive session today?
We don't, but I just want to show this to both of you. Virginia came by, and this is what we were talking about on that fund before. There's really not a lot of information there, but you can look at the dates
That's
and
at
see.
$1,700.
Yeah,
89.
89, but there's no definition as to what that money
No,
has
this
really
is where I
been
think
used
we
for.
would come up in the minutes of the commissioners.
Now it goes
Yeah.
to Kelly and Brenda to do all that
Yeah.
research and find out.
Oh, she's pointing to you. It's all on you.
Well, it's gonna be a few months still.
Are you serious?
I'm very serious.
I will ask, being we have elections and everything else coming up,
Yeah.
and I'd ask maybe if Brenda could maybe help take the lead on looking for this stuff.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah, it's, do you have it scanned in?
Yeah, but it's not, I mean, you'd have to go page by page, just like you would in the book, so it might be just as easy to.
Go to the books.
but these, what she submitted actually has dates, so that might help you.
yes.
Yeah.
So
So
do
I
you want to
think we
hold on
can-
to this then?
Yeah.
Okay. The dates are on here and between what Bob has and that should help you. Brenda.
Okay, thanks, I'll have it tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Just a second, I'll give this, I just want to, we have loan rehab payments in here. Looks like this was kind of just a loan fund. Here, Brenda, you want this too? Okay, I will try again. Anything else we need to cover? We are adjourned. Thank you, folks, for your patience.
Well, I told you one day I'd come and visit one of your
We are glad you were here, and please come back.
Thank you. Thank